of September 2nd, 2025 to order for Sugar Land City Council. And Councilmember Rod Betcher has the invocation and also will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, please rise for the invocation. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we gather here tonight in service to our community, to listen, to deliberate, and to lead with integrity. May we approach our responsibilities with wisdom, fairness, and compassion for those we represent. As we consider the needs of our city, may we be guided by a spirit of cooperation, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to the common good. Let our decisions reflect both courage and care, and may our actions strengthen the trust placed in us. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve and for the people who support and sustain our community every day, from public workers to volunteers, from first responders to educators, and all who call Sugar Land home. With Labor Day upon us, let us honor the contributions of the workers who build, maintain, and sustain the heartbeat of our city. We are reminded of the dignity and value of work. May we always strive to create a community where hard work is respected. And finally, we recognize that the work before us will not always be easy. We face difficult decisions that may not have simple answers. Grant us the wisdom to deliberate with clarity, the courage to act with integrity, and the humility to listen with open hearts. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, please join in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now to the greatest state. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance
to Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Next is item number 6, public comment. At this time, we'll open public comment for non-public hearing items. So citizens who desire to address the City Council with regard to items on the agenda for consideration will now be given 3 minutes to speak. Both speakers and members of the audience should be mindful of our governing rules for conducting the business of the City Council. As a reminder, disruptions of public meetings are prohibited, including but limited to comments unrelated to the agenda item on which a speaker is signed up to speak, failure to comply with the allotted time established for public comments, and outbursts from the audience. If an individual fails to comply, the individual will be asked to leave and excluded from attendance at future City Council meetings for a period of 60 calendar days. So, Linda, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Okay, public comment is closed. Item number 7, consent agenda. All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Does any council member wish to pull an item off of consent? Do I have a motion? Okay, motion by Watley, a second by Miller. Let's vote at this time. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 8A, Host City Supporter Agreement with Sports Authority Foundation. Consideration of and action on authorization of a Host City Supporter Agreement with Sports Authority Foundation in the amount of $2.5 million for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $100,000 from the Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund. And we have Allison Brooks, Assistant Director of Tourism.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Allison Brooks. I'm the Assistant Director of Tourism for the city. I oversee the Visit Sugar Land Division, and I'm here today to present an opportunity for Sugar Land's involvement with the World Cup in 2026. But before I get into the agreement, I want to give an overview about Visit Sugar Land and who we are. So we are the official destination management organization, or DMO, for Sugar Land, which means we serve as the city's tourism arm. Our purpose is to attract visitors to the city and help create positive experiences once they're here. So as a reminder, Visit Sugar Land is funded directly by the hotel occupancy tax, which is 7% collected on hotel room revenue. We attract visitors by marketing Sugar Land as a great place to visit, live, and do business, partnering with our key venues, hotels, and businesses to attract larger audiences, and helping attract, plan, and support conferences and events that benefit our hotels and local attractions. With that being said, you may be aware by now that World Cup is taking place in summer of 2026. Each host city has a committee responsible for executing the matches and experiences in their host city. And for Houston, that is the Houston Host Committee. I do have a guest here with me today from the Houston Host Committee. I have Chris Canetti, president of the Host Committee, who has joined us today. Thank you, Chris. And we have a very exciting partnership opportunity that Visit Sugar Land is pursuing with the Houston Host Committee and FIFA. So before I get into the specifics, here's an overview of the agreement. It is $2.5 million funded over 3 fiscal years, FY 25, 26, and 27. And it is to be split between 3 funding sources: our hotel occupancy tax, SLDC, and SL4B. So this agreement, just as a reminder, is not funded by the general fund, but it is funded by HOT and both corporations. This is FIFA's largest World Cup in history and the largest sporting event in history. It's to span 3 countries, 16 host cities, and 104 matches over 39 days. Houston is set to host 7 of those matches beginning June 14th, with each match being about 3 days apart. Houston stands to gain more than $1.5 billion in economic impact from hosting those 7 World Cup matches. For perspective, the last Super Bowl in Houston produced $347 million in economic impact. So officials have likened the economic and operational scale of Houston's 7 World Cup matches to about hosting 7 Super Bowls in just 20 days. There are about 500,000 fans expected to enter the city, with 3.7 million fans in the U.S. And the last World Cup final match drew 1.5 billion in international viewership of both in-person and streaming. So all of this just goes to show this is truly an international event and celebration that draws huge international visitors and audiences from all over the world. So what does that mean for Sugar Land? What can we expect in our city? So as I mentioned before, Visit Sugar Land has been working closely with the host committee to understand how to best position ourselves for the events. And with that, we've identified 4 key goals that align with our mission as a DMO and our city's goals. So we have brand and destination awareness, which is increasing our awareness among visitors, businesses, and residents as a sought-after destination. HOT and sales tax generation, which comes with supporting our hotels, venues, and local businesses. Community engagement by crafting those thoughtful events and experiences that not only appeal to our visitors, but also offer opportunities for our residents to engage with the events and take part in the celebrations. And airport activation. With the increase in international air traffic, our airport stands to gain a huge level of international exposure, and how we navigate that will be very important. So as I move into the details of the sponsorship, you'll see how the benefits will tie back to these 4 goals for our city. Also, developing a strategy to capitalize on the World Cup was a key project that was identified through the city strategic action plan created earlier this year. So this partnership agreement supports 3 of those 5 strategic areas that were identified with the plan. The project is under the stimulating economic growth category, but it also supports boosting community reputation and community engagement. Or for a review of what comes along with the supporter agreement. So one of the biggest advantages of this agreement is the marketing power that comes with it. So these are benefits that Sugar Land simply cannot access without the agreement. So with official branding rights, we'll have the right to use official host city supporter logos and marks. So that means we can use these joint logos on our campaigns, signage, and experiences here in Sugar Land. For example, if we host a fan festival in Town Square, the event can officially carry the joint branding, making it more attractive to sponsors and fans. With co-branded marketing rights, this allows us to launch joint campaigns with the host committee. Instead of Sugar Land marketing all on its own, we're aligned with the world's biggest sporting brand. Inclusion in host committee marketing means that as the host committee promotes Houston, Sugar Land will be part of those official campaigns. We'll be listed on the host city website, featured across the host committee's social media channels, and even visible in the FIFA app. So that's the same app that millions of fans around the world use to follow those matches and plan their trips. Our Sugar Land Regional Airport will also be featured as an official transportation option. So a fan in Germany or Brazil looking at match information could see Sugar Land highlighted as part of the host city experience. We'll also be able to gain exposure through international advertising and PR campaigns. So that means when Houston is promoted globally, Sugar Land is also promoted as part of the story and showcased as a top destination in front of millions of potential visitors, businesses, and fans. This is a mock-up of a co-branded visual using that joint branding that I talked about. We'd also be able to promote ourselves through our Visit Sugar Land website. We'd be able to have a dedicated landing page that says FIFA World Cup 26 that lives on our website. It's able to be completely tailored and customized to fans looking for resources and things to do, which is another avenue for us to drive visitors to our local businesses and support our businesses. Another thing we're really excited about this agreement, it comes with destination exclusivity. So we would be the only destination or city within 26 county territory radius that has access to the host city supporter privileges that you hear me mentioning throughout this presentation. So this gives us a competitive advantage and puts us as a top choice outside Houston for hotels, conference space, and venues during the World Cup. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity, there will certainly be other DMOs and cities that will and are interested. So as a result of our strong relationships that we have with our regional partners, we were fortunate enough to have these conversations early on about what a partnership could look like, really allowing us to be strategic in our role. So in addition, we would get a seat on the Houston Host Committee board and a seat on one of the 3 subcommittee boards with the Houston Host Committee. This is a mock-up of the official Houston Fan Festival in Edo, or East Downtown. It'll be activated for 39 days and expected to have over 500,000 attendees. So it spans multiple blocks, and this just really serves as Houston's official fan hub and viewing party. And our agreement grants us exclusive activation in the Fan Fest space. It includes promotional and advertising opportunities. The picture you see here is just an example of a stage screen advertising with our Visit Sugar Land logo on that screen. And for our hotels, while we will get organic demand and spillover from being close to the events, having an official affiliation just opens us up for even more possibilities and allows us to maximize our hotel revenues. Having planned events in our city allows us to increase guest length of stay, keeping them in the city for longer and keeping those dollars here with us in the city. So increased demand equals increased revenue for our hotels equals increased hotel occupancy tax for the city. Having an official affiliation also increases our credibility and our visibilities with those travel planners looking for reputable options to place groups and events. As an example, think media and broadcast crews, fan blocks, security personnel, sponsors and corporate partners, looking for VIP receptions, space for branded activations, client hospitality events, etc. All of these groups are looking for space. Some examples of partners using our facilities in the past during Super Bowl is that our Hyatt Place hosted ESPN's media team, and Maxim had a full buyout of Smart Financial Center for a party. This partnership also represents a great opportunity for our venues to host World Cup related events. A few examples of those could look like an official host committee event at Smart Financial Center. As an example, think of a World Cup kickoff gala with soccer-themed entertainment and private suite options for corporate partners to host clients. It could be an official watch party at places like Town Square, Smart Financial Center, and Constellation Field. We can also look to do targeted activations such as youth soccer clinics at Constellation Field or integrate World Cup programming into Space Cowboy games. So not only do these events generate money for our venues and our local businesses, but they also show that our venues can handle big events, which helps them attract more in the future. And at the same time, it opens them up to partnerships with new sponsors and gives local businesses a chance to get their name in front of international audiences. Our partnerships and sponsorships are very important to our businesses, and this can help them achieve new clients. We've been working with our tourism partners in key areas of the city, having discussions of what possible events and activations could look like, and we've identified 4 major areas of activation: the Sugar Land Town Square First Colony Mall area, Smart Financial Center, Constellation Field, and our Sugar Land Regional Airport. So some examples of activations, again, could be official watch parties, a local Sugar Land Fan Fest, events at our major venues, temporary pop-up visitor centers, and media events. So our partners are really excited to welcome these new audiences to our city and really excited to collaborate with us. And we can't talk about partners without talking about our Sugar Land Regional Airport. So through this sponsorship, the airport would be included in the overall transportation plans for the Houston region and be positioned as a premier travel option for VIP and private visitors. So we'll leverage both the host committee's international PR agency and our internal PR agency with Lou Hammond Group locally to secure coverage in major industry publications. And this helps us boost our airport's reputation and our visibility as a premier travel hub. It makes them attractive for future private and corporate clients. So every traveler coming through the airport has a potential to generate economic impact. So us serving as the first touch point allows us to extend their stay and influence their spend in our city and really position Sugar Land as more than just an airport stop. An example of what we could do at the airport is a temporary pop-up visitor center hub. So imagine walking off of your plane into a Visit Sugar Land welcome center, complete with digital maps, friendly volunteers, just directing you to our local restaurants, shops, and attractions before they head anywhere else. So as you guys will see in the next couple of days, Visit Sugar Land and the airport have been and will continue to work collaboratively to create a welcoming, engaging atmosphere for our visitors arriving into the city via air. So without this agreement, the airport is just busy. With the agreement, the airport becomes a strategic gateway, and we can capture visitor spending, raise our profile, and drive long-term business for the airport. You hear me mentioning our partners a lot throughout this presentation, and I mentioned we've been really excited to work with them. So this is one of the things we're most passionate about, is the chance to collaborate with them and support their goals in a huge way. So I have a few letters of support from our tourism partners here on the screen to show their support and excitement for our involvement as a host city supporter. In addition to the letters, many of these partners have joined us in the audience today. I would just like to take a moment to recognize our partners. We have some of them here in the front row with us. Town Square, First Colony Mall, Houston Museum of Natural Science. I think I saw the Marriott back there. So we are just, like I said, very excited to see this level of support and excitement from all of our partners in the city. We've also been working internally with key departments such as Office of Emergency Management, PD, Fire, EMS. We are all in agreement that having planned activations throughout the city to drive visitor traffic allows us to take a proactive approach rather than a reactive one. So by planning those intentional points of interest, we can better anticipate where and when people will gather, which helps us prepare for emergency response, manage traffic flows, and coordinate our city resources effectively. Local business involvement. So we're creating a way for our major employers and partners to be involved. By making a financial contribution to our plan, they'll access exclusive ticketing options, access to hospitality spaces, and promotional opportunities. So this support helps us offset our costs while giving businesses a platform to be involved in the celebrations. So imagine a major Sugar Land healthcare or life science company hosting a prospective investor or site selector during the World Cup. They could invite them to a World Cup match in Houston with access to our VIP hospitality ticketing options, which is an unforgettable exclusive experience. This is not available for purchase. At the same time, their brand could be visible at our Sugar Land watch party, connecting them with both the local community and international visitors. These opportunities are not only great for our partners, but it also creates high-impact experiences that showcase Sugar Land's quality of life and access to Houston's global market. We already have businesses and partners showing interest, which tells us this is the right direction to go. They see the World Cup as a platform not just for the city, but also for their own growth and visibility. So we're excited to have this agreement formalized so that we can start having those official conversations with our partners who are interested in those agreements with us. So in summary, this partnership aligns with the Visit Sugar Land and the city's goals. Our city will be on a global stage whether we decide to participate or not. By embracing the opportunity, we can optimize our economic benefits, shape the narrative, and showcase Sugar Land as a top destination for visitors, businesses, and residents. If we don't capitalize on this partnership, just be aware that other cities and DMOs will. So this partnership will serve as a catalyst and establish the framework for our city's involvement, allowing us to begin to plan both internally and with our city partners to ensure we're putting ourselves in the best position to be fan ready. With this, Visit Sugar Land recommends the approval of the host city supporter agreement. And there's 283, I think it's 281 days now until FIFA World Cup kicks off. And with that, I will take any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Single?
Yeah, I have two comments. So one, you said that you will be looking for sub-sponsorship or partner sponsorship. So the request is to you and the 6 partners which are in the room that they should consider being the co-sponsor with us. That will reduce some burden on the city. So I really encourage them to consider that. So that is first part. And the second part, as we were discussing in SL4B meeting, is that I know marketing is fuzzy, so difficult to quantify the benefits, but it will be good to develop some kind of a table of projected benefits so you can circle back later on and see what did we achieve, such as hotel occupancy, increased sales tax, other benefit, attracting new companies. It would be good if you establish a metrics so we can check in a year from now that how did we achieve and if this money was well spent or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Vonderhaar?
I would just like to take a minute to thank the staff for the effort they put into this. I think it's important for us to know that this is a proactive approach on the part of our city's economic development team, which includes tourism. This isn't something that Houston approached us on. We approached them, and it put us first in line. So kudos. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Betcher?
To follow up from our conversation earlier, are we planning to have events in Sugar Land for every single game? Are we going to activate within the city for every single game? Or what is our overall strategy for really motivating and utilizing Sugar Land during the games?
Every single match, every single Houston match, there's 7 matches in Houston. So we definitely plan on activating for all 7 matches. That's over a 21 day time frame. So they're about 3 days apart each match.
Mm-hmm. Follow up.
Follow up.
Well, can you elaborate on that? So I see in the contract we have, events at Smart Financial. There's the Sugar Land Airport. There's obviously discussed Constellation Field and Town Square. Are we going to have watch parties at each of those locations, or what are you envisioning with this agreement?
It is possible. We have not, like I said, this agreement, the approval of this agreement is really the catalyst for us to start planning those activations with our partners, because without that, we do not have the licensing rights to host those watch parties. That's something that comes with this agreement and that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Follow up.
Follow up.
Some of the cities that are, there's 11 cities in the U.S. that are hosting the games. Some of them are considering doing non-FIFA sponsored watch parties and things of that nature. Can you discuss the difference between the two and the impact on the city?
Currently, you would have to go through FIFA to apply for licensing rights to host public watch parties, and that is not something that's currently available with FIFA outside of the supporter agreement. So currently, FIFA is not offering that at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Again, Houston expects to receive $1.5 billion of economic impact from this. So Sugar Land only needs to receive a small percentage of that to pay out the sponsorship. Plus, staff is going to be marketing sub-sponsorships to local businesses to also offset the cost. We have a motion on the floor by Jacobson. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Second by Vonderhaar. Let's vote at this time. Okay, and the motion passes 6-1. Okay, item number...
Thank you.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Allison. I appreciate that. Next item is item 8B, a contract with JMJ Diaz Corporation, DBA JM Constructors. Consideration of and action on authorization of a contract with JMJ Diaz Corp, DBA JMJ Constructors in the amount of $3,507,290 for construction services for the Wastewater Treatment Plant's Improvement Project, CIP CW W2303, and authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $850,000 from CIP CW W2003 to CIP CWW 2303. We have Jonathan Braun, Assistant City Engineer.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. Jump right into the background on this. We did a PER in summer of 2023. So at the South Wastewater Treatment Plant, we've had some aging equipment problems that are leading to critical aerator failures. We do run a risk if multiple failures do go down, we wouldn't be able to treat the wastewater as we should, and that has elevated this project to a priority for us. We did a design contract with City Council in January of 2025, and that was completed in June of 2025, which was 2 months ahead of schedule. Here's the project location. You can see it's along Scenic River Drive, just north of Cabrera Drive. The project scope for the construction will be the removal and replacement of 6 aerators. That includes upgrades to mechanical and electrical components. The site must remain operational during construction. And because of the critical nature, we've added an alternate bid item to expedite the construction by 70 days. We advertised bids on July 9th and July 16th. Prior to that, our consultant and our purchasing team reached out to the contractor community to try and get some interest in the project. We held a non-mandatory pre-bid conference on July 14th on site. We did get 3 applicants interested, but only 1 bid was received on July 24th. Now, this is a special type of need that we have because it's a little challenging to maintain the operations while doing the construction, and electrical contractors are in short supply right now. So we're not very shocked that we didn't get much interest. Here's the bid summary. The 1 bid we received was from JMJ Diaz Corporation. That was about $3.5 million. Their additional alternate bid amount was $60,000. And you can see here on the right that the engineer's estimate was about $3.8 million. So our consultant did follow up on the contractor, their references. They are good at what they do. They have worked with the Brazos River Authority. That is who oversees they're our contract operator for the wastewater plant. They're a Texas firm, and as you can see, the bid amount is fair and reasonable considering our engineer's estimate was at $3.8 million. So the funding for the construction of this project will be about $3.5 million. We've thrown in some construction admin and contingency, so the total funding is about $3.6 million. In the project, we have an available budget of $2.78 million. So we will need some additional funds on this, and that is where our budget amendment comes in. We're looking to move the $850,000 from CWW 2003, which is the North Wastewater Treatment Plant project, and that's just some additional fund balance that we have in the project. It's currently in construction. So we're looking at notice proceed September 2025, 168 calendar days. That includes the 70 days of expedited additional alternative that we're going to activate. And then that would be March 2026 completion. The impacts are limited because this is on city property. No wastewater interruptions are expected. No work outside of working hours or at night unless otherwise approved by the city engineer. And there are existing sound walls on site to help control noise for the residents. If we do need to contact the residents, we're going to use door hangers, mail outs, and one-on-one communication. With that, I would like to request the authorization of the execution of a construction contract with JMJ Diaz Corporation, doing business as JMJ Constructors, for the construction of wastewater treatment plant improvement CIP CWW 2303 in the amount of $3,507,290, and approve the authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $850,000 from CIP CWW 2003 Wastewater Treatment Plants Improvements North Wastewater Treatment Plant to CWW 2303 Wastewater Treatment Plants Improvements. Whew.
Wait, okay. This question, Councilmember Vonderhaar.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, I'm open.
Could you go back to the slide that showed the breakdown of the cost and where we're going to get money, how we're moving this $850,000 around?
There you go.
Yeah, so my question is, we've got next slide, I think, actually, the one that talks about where that 850 is coming from.
Here you go.
Yeah, so we're moving money from all those letters and numbers you just called out from one to another. And you said that where we're moving money from, that project is currently under construction.
Correct.
So my question is, by us moving this 850 from that project, are we potentially leaving that project shorthanded? And are you going to come back to us at a later date asking for more money to finish that project?
No, we will not. We have a very healthy balance. We got bids that were lower than we were estimating for that project. So we do have balance there. Even with this, taking out this $850,000, there's a good amount of contingency if anything comes up on that project.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Single?
Hi, Jonathan. I see that only one bid was received for this project. So do you know why or what could be the reasons? And what do just follow up is, what do our process say when it's only one bid received?
Yes. So the reasons were, it's a specialty job. Not many people can do this. That's why when we started the process, we tried to drum up some interest into it by reaching out to the contractor community. We thought we were going to get 3. We ended up getting 1. They're going to have to do this aerator construction while keeping operations going. That's huge. And also, electrical contractors are in short supply right now for us, and there's a huge electrical component to this. And then your other question was, what is our process when we get one bid? We evaluate that bid for fairness, as we normally would. Just receiving one bid wouldn't restrict us from being able to accept it if we feel that it is fair and reasonable. If it had become more than our $3.8 million, we would have rejected it and maybe rebid the project out.
Councilmember Watling?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just looking at this. The original source of funding was revenue bond, right? This was not general fund, but revenue bonds?
Yes, that's correct. Revenue
Okay,
bonds.
so it's revenue
Yes.
bonds. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
We had a motion to approve by Councilmember Miller.
Well, then
Would you
I'll
like
do
to
a second.
Okay,
Thank
second
you.
by Watley. Let's vote at this time. Oops. Okay, the motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Jonathan. Next item, 9A, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on the proposed conditional use permit for the expansion of an existing private school, elementary, middle, and high, at 1201 Lakeview Drive and 1250 7th Street, further described as a subdivision of 21.52 acres located in the Brown and Belknap League A15, City of Sugar Land, Fort Bend County. And we have Jessica Eskel, Senior Planner.
Hi, good evening. Since there are 2 conditional use permits on the agenda tonight, both for private schools, I thought I'd give an overview of how both those items will go. For the first item, I'm going to give a quick background on the conditional use permit process and its purpose. And then for both items, staff will provide the case overview, and then both applicants have provided presentations and will present their slides. After that, the public hearing will be opened, and then staff and the applicants will be available to answer any questions and provide clarifications, and then following that will be first reading of the ordinances. So just some background on conditional use permits. The purpose of them is to provide an opportunity for the public, for staff, Planning and Zoning Commission, and Council to review detailed plans for proposed development to determine whether or not the use is appropriate for the site. Each conditional use permit is site-specific, and the Commission and Council consider potential impacts on adjacent properties, including traffic, noise, compatibility, and land use intensity. The Commission's role is to recommend, and then the Council's role is to impose reasonable conditions and restrictions in order to mitigate any adverse impacts. And it's important to note that with a conditional use permit, it's just the zoning approval. So it's the first step in the process. Following the zoning approval, there are additional permits and plans that are reviewed by staff to ensure compatibility with the conditions that are imposed through the conditional use permit. And looking to the land use plan for guidance, it provides some framework for conditional use permits for uses that are commonly required for conditional use permits. Specifically for schools, it provides guidance that the proposed buildings should be compatible in scale with height and bulk with the surrounding buildings, that the number of students should be evaluated to ensure the size is appropriate, and a maximum number of students is typically added as a condition of a conditional use permit for a private school. A site plan showing the location of the buildings as well as a queuing plan is required to ensure that all queuing takes place on site and does not spill onto public right-of-way, and that a traffic impact analysis, or TIA, should be performed to minimize impacts on adjacent streets. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the case overview for Fort Bend Christian Academy. This first request is for the expansion of an existing private school. The site is located south of 7th Street and north of Lakeview Drive, just west of Gillingham Lane. The site is approximately 22 acres and zoned business office district, which requires a conditional use permit for private schools. The surrounding area is also zoned business office district with land uses including churches, assisted living facilities, a Fort Bend County Library, and a City of Sugar Land water plant. And then across Gillingham Lane is the Schlumberger SLB campus, which is zone restricted industrial, or M1. The proposed conditional use permit would allow for the construction of a one-story, approximately 11,000 square foot addition to the existing lower middle school, which is considered the South Campus. The site also consists of the North Campus, which includes the upper school, which is grades 9 through 12. A CUP was previously granted in 2001 for the construction of that lower middle school. At the time of that conditional use permit, the high school was already existing. The current enrollment for the lower middle school was 508 students. At the time of that 2001 conditional use permit, it included a condition that the maximum enrollment be 675 students, so they're currently under that maximum enrollment. And the proposed addition would allow that capacity for the lower middle school to go up to 570 students. Access to the South Campus of the lower middle school is provided via curb cut on Lakeview Drive. Looking into the land use plan, specifically the future land use map, this site is categorized as neighborhood, commercial, and services. This category identifies this district to be conventional car-oriented retail and services and other low-impact commercial uses that serve local neighborhoods, and also identifies that buildings should be typically low to mid-rise and located on collectors or arterials. It's important to note that Gillingham Lane is identified as a collector roadway. So included in the ordinance, there are two exhibits, the first one being the overall site plan, where you can see that the school is already existing. To the south is the lower middle school, and then this excerpt just kind of shows the scope of work within this dashed line. In addition to that proposed one-story, approximately 11,000 square foot addition, there's also the relocation of an existing fire lane that's right here being moved to the west side of this detention pond. The detention pond is also proposed to expand to account for the increased impervious cover, and then the existing loading zone is proposed to be retrofitted to accommodate the proposed addition. The second attachment of the ordinance is the traffic circulation plan. So this was included as part of the traffic impact analysis. Originally, there was a different traffic circulation plan that was provided, and it was based off the school's current traffic mitigation plan. And because of concerns with schools and the existing traffic conditions of traffic spilling out onto Lakeview and Gillingham, the school proactively updated their traffic circulation plan to include some modifications to help reduce that queuing on the public right-of-way. So those changes included adding additional queuing lanes on site. So previously there were only two that split, and there were separate loading zones, some for single riders, some for multi-riders. The plan has been updated to now provide 3 queuing lanes for morning drop-off. So it's this lane here, and then these 2 lanes that wrap around, and both loading zones are now available for all students to be picked up from. In the afternoon, these parking spaces adjacent to Lakeview Drive, approximately 39 spaces, will have no parking signs after 2 p.m. So after 2 p.m., these parking spaces will open up as a 4th queuing lane in order to accommodate that extra traffic at pickup. Just some background on traffic impact analysis. So traffic impact analysis or a TIA was submitted and reviewed as part of this application. The purpose of a TIA is to project the impacts of a proposed development on the adjacent roadway network and recommend improvements to mitigate them. The TIA evaluates factors such as trip generation, traffic volume, capacity, levels of service, and safety. And staff has reviewed this TIA as part of this application, which includes the proposed circulation plan. The specific TAA to Fort Bend Christian Academy analyzed the impacts based on projected morning and afternoon peak traffic conditions once the addition was constructed and at capacity of 570 students. And the modifications were part of that recommendation of the TIA and incorporated into that traffic circulation plan, which I already discussed, the no parking, the extending of the loading zone to increase on-site queuing, as well as adjusting their dismissal times to lessen peak period congestion. This is not an exhibit of the ordinance, but here is a rendering just to provide a reference for the proposed addition. As you can see, the existing lower middle school is already 2 stories, and that the proposed addition is a single story. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing at the July 24th meeting, at which 3 members of the public spoke in support of the request, citing the school's need to expand, teachers needing additional classroom space, and then the school needing to provide separate classroom and areas for their older and younger students, since their lower middle school ranges from their kindergartners all the way up to 8th grade. The commission asked questions about the current queue length on Gillingham Lane during afternoon pickup, and then asked how much it was reduced with the updated traffic circulation plan. And then at the August 12th meeting, the commission held consideration action and voted unanimously to recommend approval with staff's recommended conditions, which included that the site be developed in accordance with the attached overall site plan, that the traffic flow and vehicular stacking must comply with the attached circulation plan, the drop-off and pickup times detailed on the traffic circulation plan must be maintained, and the school shall continue to contract with police officers to enforce those turn restrictions, and that the lower middle school has a maximum enrollment of 570 students. All the public hearing notification requirements were met. Mailers were sent to property owners within 200 feet of the property. That was about 15 non-residential properties. The notification was also published in the Fort Bend Independent newspaper and on the city's website, and a courtesy sign was placed on the property ahead of that first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting along Lakeview Drive. At this time, staff has not received any inquiries and is not aware of any opposition of this request. Just some points for consideration. Fort Bend Christian Academy is an existing school. This request is just for the expansion of the lower middle school. The nearest single-family residential lot is across Eldridge Road, approximately 750 feet away. The proposed scope of work is limited to that South Campus, so it only includes that lower middle school, and that the modifications were made to the school's existing traffic management plan to alleviate existing and future traffic conditions, and that staff has concurred with the TIA. And with that, staff is recommending, as well as the commission, that approval of ordinance 2385. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to the applicant for their slides.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, staff. Before I get started, I would like to thank Jessica for her coaching and collaboration over the 8 months in preparation to get to this process. I'd like to provide you a little more of an overview. Jessica talked about the size and scale and showed you the renderings. This will house 8 classrooms. It will house some common area appropriate for older students, an administrator's office, and a counselor's office. This allows for a great appropriate experience for our 7th and 8th graders as they get ready to transition to high school. The goal of this project is not to grow our enrollment as a campus. It's actually to improve student life and faculty life on the campus. We think that there will be huge cultural benefit to this addition. It allows us to physically separate the much larger and mature 7th and 8th graders from our smaller, less mature 5th and 6th graders. Currently today, these 4 grade levels share the 2nd floor of our lower school campus. So as classes change, you'll find all 4 of those grade levels transitioning at the same time, and we'd like to create a situation that not only decongest our hallways, but reduces commingling of those students. As mentioned, we think that the new expansion does create a very conducive environment for growth of our 8th graders, and it also improves operational efficiency. The 8 additional classrooms on our campus would eliminate roving teachers in our middle school, driving staff satisfaction. As Jessica gave an overview of our enrollment, she mentioned that the 2001 CUP did allow for 675 students. Our enrollment at these grade levels at our lower school campus is nowhere near 675 students. I think she mentioned 508 as the number we submitted from last year. If you were to look at our student-faculty ratios, which drive our capacity by grade level, what you would see is that today, the capacity that we desire on our lower school campus is 530. This is a $6.5 million build for us. It does allow us to spread out. We would like to grow by about 10 students per grade level on the impacted grades, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th grade. That would drive our enrollment up to 570, and that parallels what Jessica has reviewed in staff's proposal. It is not our desire to grow our campus significantly. We like the culture that we have created. I put some information here that we are currently a TAPS Division II school. It's our desire to remain a TAPS Division II school. That ties to our upper school enrollment. We're not discussing the upper school today, but we thought that that gave a good testament of what our intentions are. We recognize that with this build, that there would be concerns from the city on queuing of traffic. If you've been around our campus, you've probably seen queuing on Lakeside, queuing on Gillingham. I'm happy to say that the traffic plan that Jessica presented today is in use. When we presented to Planning and Zoning, it was estimated that the traffic queue would be reduced by about 35%. I'm happy to share that our school leadership reports that traffic queuing has all but been eliminated on Gillingham, and at most hours during both drop-off and pick-up, there is no queuing on Lakeside. So I have to give credit to our school administration and leadership for helping drive that plan that has been a huge improvement. I've presented here the new or revised drop-off and pickup times. That has certainly contributed to this. Jessica mentioned the additional queuing lane. Additionally, we have altered school start times. We lengthened the point of pickup and drop-off, as she described, 7 to 10 cars, adding 30% efficiency. This does require an increase in the number of faculty members assisting with loading, and we've also committed to maintain off-duty law enforcement to assist us with traffic. As you may know, we typically employ 3 to 4 off-duty Sugar Land police to help protect our campus. That concludes my remarks. I'm joined here by our head of school, our board chair of our construction committee, other leaders from the school, if you have questions for us. Thank you.
Again, the applicant and staff will be available to answer any questions after the public hearing.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who's filled out a speaker card?
Yes, Mayor, we do. We have 4.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Woo. Okay, the first person, the name is Clay Schaefer, I think. Oh, there you are. Okay, welcome, Clay. How'd you know? You knew. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Clay Schaefer. I'm currently in 8th grade at Fort Bend Christian Academy, and I'd just like to give you a couple of reasons on why this would help me from a student perspective. The main reason is as of now, since 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are all in the same hallways, it's very crowded in the hallways, and it's hard to get to our classes on time. A lot of times, if we need to go to our lockers or we need to stop in the restroom before class, it sometimes results in us being late to our class, which could also result to us being behind in the classroom. Also, there are teachers who don't have an assigned classroom because we don't have enough rooms for everybody to have an assigned classroom, so they have to push a cart from class to class, which also results in them being late to class sometimes, which will put certain classes behind. And it's just a little confusing for the teachers and for the children. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Next up is Linda Wright.
Hi, I just have to say I'm super proud of Clay. He's one of my former students. I'm about to cry. And that's the kind of students that we have at our school, and they are so helpful to each other, but it is super crowded. And as he was talking, I was thinking about those bathrooms. They were made for a lower school, and we have a girl that's about 6 feet tall that has to sit on this little tiny bathroom toilet. So having the new school would be amazing for our big kids to have a place, but also as a teacher, I don't have a space for me to work, to grade papers, to call parents, to have conferences, to have meetings, because I share my room during both of my planning periods. And there's not a private space in the school for me to go and have those phone conversations, those conferences, those meetings. And so this would help us not to be on top of each other in the classroom. And then as Clay pointed out, it is hard for our roving teachers. They literally have everything on a cart, and they are pushing that cart. And you can imagine you get to class and you don't have something that you need, you're going to be delayed and hope that someone can come and help you. And we are very helpful to each other, but I just see the benefit of this building allowing us to each have our own space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Our next speaker is Michelle McKescom.
Good evening, Council. Oh, sorry. My father is having heart surgery, so I'm trying to make sure I don't get any germs. Well, imagine my delight. You guys all know and recognize me. When I saw that my school alumnus was here today to request for an expansion. I graduated from Fort Bend Christian Academy. Ooh, I don't think I want to say the date. But I can testify to the fact, because my mom was an elementary teacher. She taught there for 25 years, to the crowding issue, specifically with the middle school. And so I just wanted to speak in favor of it. I spoke previously in the past in favor for the masjid conditional use permit. I'm happy to see that all religions, all faiths are being treated well here in Sugar Land. It is Fort Bend Christian where I was taught my values. It is the root of where I was given such a wonderful education and where I got to come to know and love the Palestinian man named Jesus. And I am so, so glad to see that this expansion is going to be voted on, and I want to speak in favor of it because of the values that they instilled in me. I am a living testament to what Fort Bend Christian Academy can do. And as always, free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. The next is Minnie Stubbs. I don't know if I have that first name right. So what's your first name?
Mindy.
Oh, Mindy. I couldn't read the D.
Oh,
okay, so
teacher
Mindy
voice.
Stubbs. Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mindy Stubbs. Thank you for having me, and I just want to first establish that my husband and I are longtime residents of Sugar Land. My husband's family actually goes back almost 100 years, and thanks to you and your predecessors and serving our community so well, we have seen it grow from a tiny little bitty town to a great big town, or a great big city. I'm here to speak on the perspective of a counselor for the expansion. I just want to paint a picture for you. On one end of our hallway, we have our little ones, maybe a fifth grader coming up with little beboppy, beautiful face and happiness, and she's a concrete thinker. She's looking for the leadership in the room. She's looking for someone to establish rules. She's looking for someone to comfort, provide for her and her classmates, and establish a leader in the room. On the other end of the hallway, we might have a 14-year-old boy who shaved that morning in order to get to school. So he's an abstract thinker. He's not exactly looking for someone to give him a ton of rules. He's looking to push boundaries in a good way. We love our kids, but two completely different people that we're serving. We would like to provide those two different students a space. In the counseling office, when we see the little ones, we might role play. We might play games. We're looking to comfort. In the counseling office with the older ones, we're there to hear, Mrs. Stubbs, how is it going to look if my voice is different than my friends? What do I do if my voice is different than my parents? How do I navigate that, Mrs. Stubbs? They're looking for a safe space. They're looking for someone to listen. Two completely different children that we need to give space to for both of them. So I come to you asking for your support in allowing us to serve our children well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. I'll close the public hearing. Council, questions or comments? Councilmember Watley.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for Jessica. Oh, there you are. Jessica, I watched P&Z on this, and it was approved unanimously. There were some conditions. Did all those conditions, they were met, correct?
Correct.
Did we hear from anybody after those conditions were met?
No.
So seeing that the entire community is behind this, I'd like to make a motion we move forward to approve.
Okay, so first consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance Number 2385, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, granting a conditional use permit for the expansion of an existing private school, Fort Bend Christian Academy, located at 1201 Lakeview Drive and 1250 7th Street, within a business office BO zoning district, and repealing ordinance number 1317. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so we've got a motion by, we have a motion by Watley and a second by Vonderhaar. So let's vote at this time. The motion passes 7-0. Next up is item B, public hearing, receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on the proposed conditional use permit for the establishment of a private school, elementary, middle, and high, at 800 Brook Street and 802 Brook Street, further described as 6.0024 acres, located in the S.M. Williams League, A97, and 17.1949 acres located in the S.M. Williams League, A97, and Alexander Hodge League, A32, Fort Bend County, Texas, located west of Brook Street. And we have Jessica back with us.
Hello again. So this item is slightly different than the last one. This request is for a conditional use permit for the establishment of a private school. The site is located west of Brook Street, and it's approximately 23.2 acres. The property is zoned business office district as well, which requires a conditional use permit for private schools. The school is Logos Preparatory Academy, and they are currently in the process of purchasing this land from two different churches, Faith Lutheran and The Bridge, in order to develop their new school campus. The proposed CUP would allow for phase 1 of the development of this campus, which would allow for a 3-story, approximately 60,000 square foot academic building, a 1-story, approximately 8,000 square foot cafeteria and outdoor pavilion, a multi-purpose playfield, surface parking, and detention facilities, and then the interior renovation of the existing gym building on the Faith Lutheran property. The current enrollment for Logos Preparatory Academy is 595 students. That's spread across both of their campuses. Right now, they are renting facilities from 2 different churches, Faith Lutheran, which has their kindergarten through 2nd graders, and then the rest of their students are at Sugar Creek Baptist off of 59. The future enrollment is expected to increase to 976 students with the new campus at Brook Street. However, not all students would be on campus at the same time, as their academic schedule is split between Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday classes, with the maximum attendance projected to be 596 students on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. Access to the site would be provided via primary access easement from Brook Street, which is also a collector roadway. And then the school is proposing to enter into shared parking agreements with both Faith Lutheran Church and the Bridge in order to meet the minimum parking requirements, as both churches have excess and go above what is required for a place of worship in terms of parking ratios. And so the school is proposing to construct a surface parking lot as well as using parking spaces from both churches. Looking to the land use plan for guidance, the future land use map, the property is categorized as both neighborhood commercial and services and parks and open space on the future land use map. Again, the neighborhood commercial and services category identifies it as a conventional car-oriented retail and services and other low-impact commercial uses that serve local neighborhoods, and that the buildings in this category are typically low to mid-rise and located on collectors and arterials. Parks and open space is identified for parks and open space detention facilities as well, which is where the current drainage district on the property is located on the future land use map. So this is one of the exhibits of the ordinance, similar to the last item. It is the overall site plan where you can see the property lines outlined in this dashed line, and you can see Faith Lutheran's property as well as the bridge and their existing parking lots. And then this is the proposed primary access easement that will serve not only Logos Preparatory Academy, but serving the Faith Lutheran parking lot located here, as well as the bridge's parking lot. The existing gymnasium owned by Faith Lutheran currently is located right here. Here is the surface parking lot, the proposed 3-story academic building, and then that cafeteria outdoor pavilion with a play field that's double serves as a detention pond, and then an multi-purpose athletic field. And then the second exhibit of the ordinance is the circulation plan. So on here you'll see in this little blow up the directions provided for the circulation plan. Our parents will enter from Brook Street coming north and southbound and turn onto the site, and queuing will be using the Faith Lutheran parking lot to increase on-site capacity, and they will come around the parking lot and then come down and drop off in front of the academic building and then come around and exit back onto Brook Street. On this plan, you will also see that the existing curb cut adjacent to Dogwood Street for currently serving this Faith Lutheran parking lot is proposed to be closed, as well as, it's kind of covered by this box, but this existing curb cut serving the bridge parking lot is also proposed to be closed. Again, just a quick reminder that traffic impact analysis, the purpose of it is to project the impacts of a proposed development on the adjacent roadway network and then to recommend improvements to mitigate them. With this application, we also received a traffic impact analysis, and staff has reviewed it and concurred with it. And it also includes the proposed circulation plan. The TIA analyzed impacts based on the projected morning and afternoon peak period traffic conditions once the private school is fully developed, which would be at maximum occupancy. The circulation plan was created to mitigate that expected congestion on Brook Street by using that Faith Lutheran parking lot to increase on-site vehicle storage. And it also included the recommendation that the Brook Street northbound left turn lane markings be adjusted for the new driveway, which would increase that total storage capacity on Brook Street. And staff has reviewed the proposed queue lengths and found them sufficient based on the analysis. Again, the renderings are not included as an exhibit of the ordinance, but they are used as reference for what the proposed campus will look like. So here is the existing gymnasium already on the site, and then here is the proposed 3-story academic building with the drop-off and the surface parking lot and walkways across to the school. Here is a south view of the cafeteria and outdoor pavilion, and then the front of the academic building. And then here is a south view looking north of the multi-purpose athletic fields. And then you can see the academic building in the back. Planning and Zoning Commission did hold a public hearing at the July 8th meeting, at which no speakers were present. The commission asked a lot of questions, mainly regarding traffic and the circulation plan and Brook Street existing traffic conditions and proposed traffic conditions, school operations, student parking, and how many properties have been notified with the public hearing notices. The commission also expressed concerns with the layout with the lack of crosswalks and walkways from the various parking areas, and so the applicant did update that site plan to include an additional crosswalk and walkways between the parking areas and the academic building. Following that public hearing, the commission did vote 6-1 to recommend approval with staff conditions, plus the condition requiring that a north arrow be added to those site plans. And so here are the recommended conditions: that the site be developed in accordance with the attached site plan and circulation plan, that the maximum number of students on site at any time is 596, the directional indicators such as a north arrow be added to the site plan, which has been addressed. And staff did include in the report that following some concerns that were received from adjacent neighbors that regarding parking and students potentially parking in the neighborhood, that staff is recommending this additional condition, that a minimum of 175 parking spaces shall be provided on site and through shared parking agreements with Faith Lutheran Church in the Bridge, and that student drivers shall be required to obtain and display a parking permit sticker issued by the school. So after these concerns were expressed, staff worked with the applicant to understand how many students were anticipated to be driving to this campus. That was about 30 to 40% of their high school population, which is 320 students. So around 90 or so students maximum were expected to be driving to campus. And then we also looked at the number of staff that would be on time, maximum staff on time at once. And so that's where the 175 comes from. And then the parking permit is just to identify student drivers in case they do park across the street in the neighborhood. The public hearing requirements have also been met for this item. Mailers were sent to property owners within 200 feet. That was about 12 properties, with 6 of them being residential. The notification was also published in the newspaper and on the city's website, and a courtesy sign was placed on the property along Brook Street. Staff received 52 comment forms and actually 18 emails in support of the request, and then 1 comment form in opposition. Staff also received multiple 311 tickets with general inquiries and opposition of the request, with the primary concerns being traffic on Brook Street and then student parking. Points for consideration: the proposed buildings are compatible in scale with the surrounding buildings and set back significantly from Brook Street. The existing gym building is about 400 feet away from Brook Street, and the proposed academic building is about 600 feet set back from Brook Street. The nearest single-family residential lot is located across Brook Street, so even further than, well, it's within the 200-foot boundary of notification. It's set back significantly from the school itself. And the preliminary parking analysis was conducted for this conditional use permit to ensure that both Faith Lutheran Church and the Bridge had adequate and excess of parking to share with the school. And that shared parking agreements will also be required with the site plan submittal. So going back to my earlier point, conditional use permits are just the zoning approval. The site plan will be required after the conditional use permit, and then a building permit will be pulled. At the time of site plan is where the applicant has to provide those shared parking agreements to ensure that there's adequate parking on site. And then the maximum number of students proposed on site at any one time is proposed to be 596. on those Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. And again, Logos Preparatory Academy is currently operating at Faith Lutheran Church. That's where their kindergarten through second graders are. And that any future phases of the development of their campus will require an amendment to their conditional use permit. Right now, it's just the academic building and that cafeteria that are being proposed. Other uses that are allowed by right in the BO zoning district are regional and professional offices, which are greater than 20,000 square feet. Banquet, event centers, daycares, and places of worship are all permitted by right in this district. So this is just to keep in mind with the consideration of the use and whether or not it's adequate for the site. These are uses that are similar in traffic generation and are allowed by right on this site. And also, council may impose additional conditions that they feel necessary to mitigate any negative impacts on the surrounding area. And with that, staff and the commission recommend approval of ordinance number 2380. And I will pass it on to the applicant for their slides.
Thanks, Jessica. Yes, Jessica and staff are our heroes too, for sure. They've been incredibly helpful. Mayor and council, we really appreciate your consideration this evening. My name is Rick Goolsby, and I serve as chairman of the board for Logos Prep and also lead on what we call our Promised Land Committee. And I'm here tonight and I have the privilege of really just kind of acquainting you with Logos. Logos has been in Sugar Land for 20 years. And as Jessica indicated, we've been at Sugar Creek and at Faith Lutheran with those classes. And so, I think I can switch that. This is our mission. We partner with, strengthen, and equip Christian families and students through quality education using biblical values for the glory of God. And Logos Prep is a university model school. As Jessica mentioned, half of our kids are not on campus at any particular time. So in other words, our secondary kids are on campus Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then they're at home doing their assignments Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then the elementary kids are on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays doing their assignments at home Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And whether you're a public school kid or a private school kid or you're homeschooled, statistics have proven out that parental involvement is key to academic and student success. So the model is one that we feel lends itself perfectly for that combination of having professionals come alongside our students. And so the idea being that when the students are younger, that the co-teachers at home work alongside them to help them to get their assignments done. And as they progress through grade levels then, they become independent learners. So they really are independent, where the parent's role is simply just being an accountability partner. So out of the hundreds of private schools in the Houston metro area, Logos Prep has actually been ranked in the top 25 by Niche, which is a publication that surveys various private schools around the country, different types of schools as well. And if you look at that book of lists, and the next lowest total cost of education, Logos Prep is about 40% lower than those. So the model lends itself, because our students are on campus half the time and we're sharing classroom space. It's a private school education that's affordable for a lot of families who are willing to make the sacrifice. So that's one of the things that truly does make us unique. And as we go about this building program, we don't intend to change who we are. I mean, that is part of our DNA. And we want to be that education that's available to any family who's willing to make that sacrifice. So Logos is fully accredited. And our kids do compete with the other TAPS schools, private schools in Texas. And this is a portrait of our graduate. We're looking to, by the time our kids graduate, we want them to understand what their purpose in life is. We want them to be versatile learners and to be critical thinkers. We want them to be influencers in their community, effective communicators, and those who are going to serve in the community. So growth timeline. We started, like I said, we've been in Sugar Land for 20 years. We started at First Colony Bible Chapel. Stood here in front of council at that time to get a conditional use permit just to use that facility. I remember trying to raise $4,000 so that we could hire a traffic consultant before we were starting the school to draw a picture of our parking lot to show how the cars were going to circulate around. We outgrew First Colony Bible Chapel within a couple of years and then moved to Sugar Creek, where we again had to get a conditional use permit, and we had to get the fire marshal's blessing to occupy classroom space that did not have the requisite fire sprinkler system that was needed at the time. Was able to get grace from the fire marshal several times as we were going about our fundraising campaign. And then just at the precipice of time when we were going to be kicked out of there because we couldn't afford a sprinkler system, Fort Bend Christian, our friends in the community, made a call and let us know they were going to be vacating their space over at Sugar Creek that they'd been occupying for their middle school for the prior 15 years. And while we were praying hard for $350,000 for a sprinkler system, God had a better plan for us to move into a building that had a sprinkler system. So Logos Prep is the largest K-12 university model school in the nation out of approximately 90 schools. We're one of 6 Sugar Land schools, private or public, to receive the Blue Ribbon Award since it began in 1982. That's a U.S. Department of Education recognition for the test scores of our students and improvement, ranking among the best. And then we're the only K-12 Sugar Land school to receive the award. And in 2021, when we were recognized and awarded the National Blue Ribbon Award, we were only one of 2 private schools in Texas to have received that honor. In addition, in 2024, Logos Prep received the Best Christian Workplace certification, and in fact had the highest rated leadership scores among all of the Best Christian Workplace certified schools. So in addition to providing a top-notch education for our students, it's also a pretty great place to work. And in fact, if you think about it, we really do attract great teachers, because oftentimes we'll attract teachers that have been teaching for a really long time, and they're looking to possibly cut back on their teaching regimen, 5-day-a-week schedule. And so it's the perfect opportunity to bring in teachers who, maybe after 20, 30 years have been a little burned out. And so we're very privileged to have very high quality staff and faculty at Logos. Every year, we have a number of national merit recognitions amongst our graduates. Just a snapshot of finalists, commended scholars. So roughly 10% of our graduates. And then our graduates most often are able to get into the college or university of their choice. We have numbers who go to some of the most elite institutions in the country. And we also have our share of Longhorns and Aggies and Cougars and Bears and all of those. So we don't have room to grow at our existing facilities, and our desire is to provide room to be able to grow. Our master plan is designed so that we can have 4 sections of each grade at the maximum student to faculty ratio. That's how we deduce that 976 student number. And so we desire to grow at the center of where our student population resides, and we desire to grow in Sugar Land, which has been our home since we started. So I know that there has been some concern expressed in the community about circulation, traffic backup. There used to be a school at Faith Lutheran, and after that school closed down is when we had the opportunity to move our primary grades into their classroom and fellowship building. And so we inherited their traffic circulation plan that you can see here, and we've continued to abide by that. Obviously, as Jessica indicated and showed graphically, our new plan, it has a much different circulation plan to accommodate the amount of traffic, pickups and drop-offs that we are going to be having. So it's important to note that after we move out of Faith's buildings and into our new building, that they will no longer be hosting any schools. That's part of our agreement, is they won't be having any additional schools to come and backfill those classroom spaces. So we actually had a 30% increase in enrollment at our Brook Street campus. So it's kindergarten through second grade is our Brook Street campus this year. So I was curious as to what that might look like as it pertains to the traffic. And as you can see in this picture, you can see that we did have cars that were queuing out onto Brook Street. If you look at the second picture, you can see they're not actually in the line of traffic, but they've pulled over to the shoulder. And it moves fast. Once they actually open it up and start doing the student pickup, those cars move really fast. And what you see there on the right-hand side is the picture that was less than 10 minutes later from the picture that was on the far left-hand side. So once it starts, it goes real fast. And we did recognize, though, that we needed to come up with a plan to address the issue with the cars backing up. And so I'm hoping this will work, because this is a video, this is a time-lapse video over the course of 10 minutes to show a drone footage of the pickup after we modified the pickup plan. And if you look closely at the gym building, you can see the kids coming out really fast, jumping in the cars. And if we can improve to that level of efficiency, so. Couple more kids, and away they go. So probably the main point that I want to make is that we have partnered with Sugar Creek over the last 18 years and with Faith Lutheran since 2014. And whenever you're partnering with somebody, and you throw people in the mix, it can get complicated. And the ministry needs of the church change over time. There can be stresses on both sides. And so we work through those issues. And while we recognize that introducing a school across the street that didn't used to be there, I'd be naive to suggest that there's not going to be additional traffic, right, on Brook Street when we open a school. But we're open door, and we want to be good neighbors. And in fact, if I can. So one of our core values, one of our 6 core values, is community. And Mark 12:31 says that we're to love our neighbors as ourselves. And that's really the heart of who we are as a school. If our presence on Brook Street is ever a problem for our neighbors, we want them to know that we have an open door. We want to work through whatever we have to. I know that there was a suggestion made just prior to getting started tonight that, if we were to hire a police officer to direct traffic, then that might work. If we got to that point, certainly we would be open to doing whatever we need to be good neighbors, right? So that's just our DNA. That's who we are. And I think that really that's the main thrust of what I want to communicate, is that we're open to having open dialogue so that we can be the kind of neighbors that God's called us to be. So if you have looked around lately, you know that there's not a whole lot of 20 to 35 acre parcels in Sugar Land, Texas. This has been our home, and we just ask that you would very carefully consider allowing us to continue into the distant future to have our school in Sugar Land, Texas. And with that, I will yield to, public comment at this point. Thank you.
Again, staff and the applicant will be available after public hearing to answer any questions.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Has anyone filled out a speaker card?
Yes, Mayor, we have 10 comment cards.
First up is Dane Delousep. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to. You're gonna have to tell me with your last name on that. Sorry.
Good evening, Dane Delahousse, and I'm here in support of this ordinance. I'm a longtime Sugar Land resident, having graduated from Clements High School, and still currently now live in Sugar Creek, so I've come back. I actually am the father of 2 Logos graduates, so coming in, and also as a experience of kind of testament of how we have been. Also, I'm the spouse of a faculty member at the school, so I can have a lot of experience with what's going on there. So I think one of the things I want to talk about is, as Mr. Goolsby mentioned, the community. Last year alone, the Logos Prep National Honor Society chapter logged 4,100 community service hours. This is in addition to the hours that was logged by the junior high service organization and the elementary school organization. Since the class of 2017, Logos students, including my daughter Lily, have consistently participated in the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. An excellent program, and we thank you for that, and we've been proud to be part of that. For even longer than that, Logos students, like my other daughter Jane, has been part of the George Foundation's Youth in Philanthropy project as well. So our students are very much plugged into this community, plugged into the leadership opportunities that they're trying to develop for young people. They're also involved heavily in the National Charity League, the Young Man's Service League, their individual churches, their sports, their organizations, their fine arts programs, and their organizations throughout Sugar Land and the greater Fort Bend County. Again, that was one of the things that originally attracted me to the school, was looking, when my kids, before they got there, looking at students who were young leaders, who looked you in the eye, who were able to articulate, who were good neighbors. And I think those values are something that really intrigued us to go explore, and really pleased us that we were able to have our daughters come up and do with that as well. I think one of the things that I would say in support of this specifically is this conditional use permit would allow the school to move forward, not new school, but rather relocate into a permanent home, and help those students and the city of Sugar Land continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Dane. Next up is Megan Johnson.
Shorter here. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Megan Johnson, and I'm standing here before you as a resident of Sugar Land, specifically on Brook Street, and also as a parent to students at Logos Prep. I have a 7th grader and a 4th grader, and my journey to Sugar Land, our family's journey to Sugar Land, began with Logos Prep. We were commuting from another city because we loved this school so much. It didn't take long of making that commute to realize Sugar Land was the place for us, and it was Logos that brought us here. As homeowners on Brook Street, we have seen the traffic, we have experienced it firsthand. I've done that traffic loop. I've also watched it while not being a part of it, and I understand those concerns and frustrations. But I can tell you that in the 8 years that we've been at Logos Prep, we started as just parents, and then we've become volunteers. My husband is now even on staff as a part-time coach. And so the more we've gotten to know this community, the more that we've gotten involved, I can tell you that I have 100% trust in the leadership of our school. They have good intentions for not only our students and our families, but for the community. And so I can say with 100% confidence that while we won't resolve every issue here this evening, and I'm sure there will be more, I know that our leadership will do justice by our neighborhood. As a homeowner in Brook Street, on Belknap, in Sugar Land, we don't always get to pick our neighbors, but with this conditional use permit, I'm just asking that we get to choose a wonderful partner in the form of Logos Prep. We are a pillar of the community. We've been here for 20 years. We're a blue ribbon school. Our students function at the epitome of class. And so we're just asking that you vote for this conditional use permit and allow us to establish a permanent home in Sugar Land. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Megan. Next up is Davis Bradford.
Hi, I'm Davis Bradford. I am here speaking in favor of Logos and getting the permit approved. I'm a parent of 3 children at Logos. I attend kids' plays right outside the walls and have date nights here with my wife at all the restaurants. So I say that to say that we're a part of the community, like Logos is. And I introduce that because Logos is made up of people, right? And you can see the amount of parents and staff members and teachers, and Megan, who I think has a little bit of every one of them in her family, who all came here today because they care about it, right? We care about this community. We want to have a place for our kids to keep going to school, and Logos has been great for that. But we're in multiple campuses, and we're out of room to grow, and we need a campus, right? We can't rent at multiple places forever. We can't be capped out on siblings, can't come, we can't be capped out forever. And that's what makes this change in Logos's, time such an important time, because we found a place, and it's here in Sugar Land where everybody's kind of committed to being a part of the community. Now, I realize that with all schools, we saw it with Fort Bend earlier, Fort Bend Christian, traffic flow is an issue. Pick up and drop off is an issue. If no car ever queues up on a public road, it'll still be an issue because a parent will complain to the school that they took too long. Right? Pick up and drop off is just a deal you have to deal with the schools. But that's why Logos has a specifically designed plan to take into account the traffic flow and to try to keep cars from queuing up on the public roads. I don't want to queue up on the public roads. I certainly don't want my teenage daughter to have to queue up on the public roads. We're going to be good stewards of whatever we can do to keep cars within, the confines of our plans, and we'll adjust if there's any problems, but those plans have been approved. And so, making that point, I would just lastly say that Logos has been a part of raising the next generation of Sugar Land community members for 20 years. And we have an opportunity to extend that for 20 years and beyond. And when you have committed families, attentive teachers, and involved families that want to invest in the community, I think that's the kind of thing that helps turn a city into a community. It helps strengthen that involvement. So on behalf of myself, my family, and I think the Sugar Land community, I'd ask that you approve this.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Next up is Leon Anhauser.
Thank you, Council, for having this opportunity to address you on this issue. I am Leon Anheuser, living in Hall Lake. This will be the exit that they will be all exiting from when they go out at the end of the school day. They'll turn right, and so we will be seeing them coming out all day long. Let's talk about traffic. Right now, they have 108 students, as I understand it, and they're going to 600, which is a 600% increase. That will be an increase in traffic. They're not talking about staff, security, cafeteria workers, or janitors, or anyone else who's in this. That's just students. So that's an increase in traffic of 750% if you caught them all. They'll be coming out of that drop-offs. They claim that they'll drop off students every 10 seconds. So if you drop off a student every 10 seconds, you're going to be turning right on Brook Street every 10 seconds. That's a lot of cars, maybe 700. Anyway, what I was trying to say on that is, this is a 2-lane road. This is not a boulevard. So we're not going to be able to make a left-hand turn for 4 hours, because if you take the morning drop-off and the afternoon leaving, you're going to have 4 hours that they're all going to be turning right, all these cars. How are we going to get out? If it was a 4-lane road, that's totally different. This is a 2-lane road. And something will have to be done about that. because they're looking at the 10-second rule and the 10-second, we'll never get out. We don't think that you can give Brook Street at that location 2 logos for 4 hours a day. Exclusive use coming out every 10 seconds. The traffic from Highway 90 to Lagos, let's talk about this street being called a collector street. Yes, it's a collector from Azalea to 6, but is not a collector from Azalea to 90. That's a residential more than 50%. So right there, the traffic part. The parking, I'll sum it up by saying, this is the only place that you're going to look the other way and not require them to put their parking on site with their total control. There's going to be always some kind of deal going. Well, we're saying they need 200 additional parking places, and that will help all kind of drop-offs if you can ever figure out what to do. But we believe that.
Okay. Thank you, Leon. Next up is John Lucy.
Thank you, City Council. My name is John Lucy. I live in Hall Lake, and I agree with everything Mr. Anheuser said, but I'm very concerned about the traffic, concerned about the fact that they don't have enough parking for all the students, and this is going to have a high school. And my daughters went to parochial school, high school, and all the boys had the biggest trucks known to man. And the traffic queuing, they're queuing on grass, not on the road. Brook Street, y'all have essentially turned Brook Street into a thoroughfare between Highway 90 and Highway 6. And it's 4 lanes until you get over the bridge, and then everybody's running into the traffic there. Brook Street's getting beat to death. It's the only asphalt street in the city of Sugar Land with open ditches on the side. Personally, I think something needs to be done with Brook Street. And then you've already added a retirement home there, trying to get in and out of Hall Lake with that traffic. Now we're going to add a school also. That's a 2-lane street. It's not a 4-lane street. Most of the schools I've been around, they're 4-lane streets. I wouldn't object too much if there was a 4-lane street and it was concrete. I got out of Houston because of the bad streets. I move over here and I'm on the only asphalt street with open ditches in Sugar Land. And now you're at putting more traffic on the street. And then you try to get off of Highway 6 and there's 4 lanes and you got to fight to be able to get on the bridge because it's 2 lanes. And now you're going to add even more traffic. I don't have anything against the school. They're very nice people. I don't have anything against them. But the traffic, you keep adding more and more traffic onto Brook Street. And personally, it's a residential street for Hall Lake and all the other people that live over there. And that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Next up is Billy Hicks.
Good evening, Council. My name is Billy Hicks. I am the Street Director on Dogwood for the Belknap-Brookside Civic Club. My neighbors have asked me to speak on their behalf this evening. We're concerned about the traffic and the parking. I saw today there were cars queued onto Brook Street in the grass. And in past days, there have been some across the line, and the speed limit is 40 through there, and it's only 35 for school zones. That's the first thing that probably needs to happen, is to take a look at that speed zone for school during the school hours. I went to Richmond today, and it's 20. Why is it not 20 there? And that might help a little bit. Parking, 20 to 30, 40%. I was a principal at a 6A high school. We had 60 to 70% of our students drove because as soon as sophomores could get a car, they were driving. And we didn't have the spots in College Station ISD. So I caught all the phone calls from everybody who parked in the neighborhood. And I'm worried that that's going to happen in our neighborhood. So if you restrict parking and say no school people parking in Dogwood Street or Camellia or Hall Lake, what happens to our neighbors who have visitors? So there's a double-edged sword on that one. So we need to take a look at the parking. Logos is a very good school. I coached at St. Agnes after I retired from public schools, so I'm familiar with them. They are growing, and they're going to continue to grow. There's an exodus of people coming out of Houston ISD. I have friends of mine who have retired from there. There's also people from Fort Bend ISD are going to private schools. The vouchers and all that will go along. So will there be a phase 2, phase 3? What are we going to face in the future? Let's address that and make sure everything's taken care of. The public notice sign that's on Brook Street faces the south, it's blank. You face the north, it's very little, and all of us are trying to turn right on Dogwood. We can't see the little sign. There's no sidewalk on that side, and so that's why a lot of us missed the first meeting. We'd have loved to have come and expressed our concerns and probably already been settled by this meeting. And that's why we're asking maybe we delay this a little bit and settle all the concerns, come up with a great plan that will benefit the school, the students, the drivers, and our neighborhood. Because we're going to get more traffic with Imperial and maybe a shopping center. So what's your solution? Make Brooks 4 lanes all the way to Highway 90? I don't think our neighbor's going to like that very much.
30
I know I
seconds.
wouldn't. So let's get things working together and maybe we can come up with a good solution that benefit everybody. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Billy. The next speaker is James Anheuser.
Good evening, everybody. James Anheuser. I live on Venice Street. Grew up here. Y'all know Leon over there. I don't live in Hall Lake, but I live in Belknap Brookside, where I grew up and all that kind of good stuff. I used to go out on Dogwood, and I've talked to a lot of people. You don't even have to get elected. I'm the president of the BBCA. The Civic Association was started 49 years ago. It'll be our 50th anniversary next year. So there's no comments about logos as far as quality. Everybody, just positive comments. And my phone's just been busy. Okay, I've been out of the state for about 4 weeks. And everything's positive. So really, we're still just talking about traffic. We did watch traffic today. And one of the big concerns, if there's really 108 kids there right now, let's say we're going to go to 400 or 600 on Tuesday, Thursday. We're queuing already on Brook Street over there, and it's from being a substitute teacher, sometimes it's usually the afternoon. I watched in the morning, it's still 108, it's not 400 or 600. But everything, people come in different. And the evening, everybody, you want to get your kid, okay? And I agree with Billy that I just don't see with the TIA I think there's something we can work on there. We just don't think it's going to work. I know that comment was made on July 8th by somebody at P&Z that I believe voted against it. We listened to that. So getting that taken care of, getting what is the flow? Is the flow only going up the middle? There's no flow coming from Bridge Fellowship. If you go look at your exhibits there's nothing that says where the high school kids are going to go. They're in the bridge. There's arrows, there's nothing. If they're still not going to use the side where the landing is, they have a pretty good operation. That's where they're queuing, but they're pretty darn good. And these volunteers are lining up 2 lines of people. At the main part over there goes Faith Lutheran. They got 3 lines of cars lined up and the kids coming. It's even more spectacular what they did today than what that drone showed. It was good. It was good work there. It was good work over there. Just have a few queue things going. But as Billy said, I think that that part right there, what is the circulation? I don't see it on the map.
30 seconds.
You're not going to make it with what the drawing on the map is, where they circulate. It's not going to happen with the TIA. You got other traffic coming also from the bridge, which is not on their queue. So I guess they're just going to run on out. And it would be good to use the other side too. So I think that
10 seconds.
that's why we're against it right now, is just get the traffic worked out. Everything's good with Logos as a school. Everything I've heard. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, James. Our next speaker is Catherine Withrow.
Hi, my name is Catherine Withrow. My husband, Will, and I are proud parents of 2 daughters. We are residents of Belknap Brookside. It is our intention to remain in this neighborhood long-term, and we absolutely love our neighborhood. We believe the building of Logos Prep across the street from our neighborhood would be a wonderful addition. Our hope is to one day enroll our daughters at Logos Prep, and we view its presence nearby as a benefit rather than a disruption. We have full confidence that the school will manage matters such as traffic and parking responsibly. I would say that I am a stay-at-home mom, so I am driving on Brooks at all hours, and I don't ever notice any disruption myself when I see school pickup taking place. I usually just drive right by it. As they showed in some pictures, they do pull onto the shoulder, so I haven't noticed it stopping me at all as I'm trying to get places. Schools are a gift to communities, and children are a blessing, so we wholeheartedly support the establishment of Logos Prep in this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Our next speaker is Joe Stelling.
Thank you. My name is Joel Stelling. I live in Greatwood here in Sugar Land. We've been residents of Sugar Land about 15 years, and I've got 3 children go to Logos Prep. I'm asking for your support of this. One thing that I think would be interesting to know is in Greatwood, there's a lot of residents there that do go to Logos Prep. And I've noticed that a lot of the parents and the kids carpool together. They try to ride together to the school because it is so convenient. It's such a good organization. So I've seen them try to ride together and reduce traffic that way. But also just the school is fantastic, gives us another option. My kids, I've got 2 kids that are going into high school now, one that's in 5th grade, and I would just like to ask for your support. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Our last speaker is Mike. Bellini, you'll have to help me with your last name. Some of y'all are writing your names pretty fast, these forms.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Mike Bonney.
Bonnie.
It was Boney first day of class. I'd always cut the teacher off before they'd beat me up. But anyway, I'm thankful to be here tonight. My wife and I have lived in Sugar Land for 30 years. And in fact, our kids all went to Fort Bend Christian, and my wife teaches at Fort Bend Christian, so we love Fort Bend Christian too, but we also love Logos. I'm here tonight for Logos Prep. We are residents of Belknap, right off of Brook Street, and we think very highly of the leadership of Logos, and we've driven, obviously, on Brooks, and we don't see we don't see the problem with the traffic. Now, we know that if the school comes in, there'll be an increase, but we've seen the plans where the school is set back, and we're confident in the leadership, and I've known the leadership for years, I've known the board for years, and we're confident that they would do the right thing, and so we're in favor of Logos Prep coming over. We believe they'd be great neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And with that, that concludes our public hearing. So I'd like to open it up to council members for questions. Councilmember Watley?
Do you mean to go first or wrap it up?
Huh?
Do you mean to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any comments or questions? Yeah.
I've got a lot of questions, a lot of comments for staff and for the applicant. First of all, can you stand up here, Mr. Goldby? I just want to make it clear that I don't know you. We don't know each other, do we?
No.
Okay.
Although I did see you in the picture there.
Because I'm going to refer to some things that were sent to me by I guess, one of your, my constituents concerning your school. I want to make it clear that you and I have not spoken about this, just to be fair. So some of the concerns that were brought to me earlier, and staff knows this, were the parking permits for your students. And you agreed to have all the students permitted that were drivers, correct?
Correct.
And I know now from listening again that some of them are still going to park in the neighborhood. That is not a concern, I don't believe. But should they do that, and this might be a staff question, who do they call to make sure that these students don't park in the neighborhood? There is a remedy for that, correct? Either one of you can take
call
that.
the office. We're neighbors, right? If
Right.
anybody has an issue, I don't see it ever being a problem, but if it were, certainly, just call the office. Tammy McAvoy, best head of school ever.
They move their car immediately.
I just want to make sure, because I want all the concerns that we heard here tonight to be addressed. I mean, we know that Logos is a great school, but there are some concerns from the citizens that we need to make sure are addressed. And these are little concerns, but they mean a lot to all the constituents. I mean, we want you there, but we want you there happy with everyone else. So that was one of the concerns. One of the things that that was brought to my attention, I did speak to staff about this, was the cut into Faith Lutheran. Now, this cut is being taken away. Can you explain to me that, this is the part that we got to talk about. Could this cut stay? If it stayed, how would this help the traffic impact that we're talking about? Traffic and overflow is a problem. So if this cut remained, would it help you? I don't know if this will help or hinder the process of flow.
Right.
And here comes our engineering.
I'm Robert Wilson, Assistant City Engineer. So part of the TIA that it looks at is the worst case traffic. So it's really looking at that school pickup and flows through that. In that, with closing that driveway is what was analyzed. That triggers that larger queue that gives the ability to get those cars off of the highway, off of Brook Street. So there's not analysis to show that driveway would improve or not improve traffic.
Follow-up? I'm going to ask for lots of follow-ups.
That's fine.
I just want to make sure that if we kept that cut, it's not going to hinder us or help us. I mean, that cut looks like it may help traffic come in, and I know there are probably ways to mitigate people from going in there during school times, but to have Faith Lutheran access it when we weren't in school, if that would help the traffic flow. I mean, these are a lot of silly questions maybe, but I want to make sure we look at everything to mitigate traffic problems.
Absolutely. So part of increased driveways, so if that cut did remain open, it increases conflict points, which increases the potential for any accidents because there's more chances for somebody to enter or exit the road. It's more confusing for drivers that are driving on Brook Street. So with that, staff does recommend that closure as modeled in that TIA.
Mr. Golby, does that make sense to you?
It doesn't make logical sense, but he's the expert.
He is.
It doesn't. And it's interesting how we find ourselves here, because as a carpet salesman / board member, chairman of the board on the side, I don't know these things, right? Somewhere early in the process, somebody told us that we were going to need to abandon both of those driveways. It was only after I met with the Faith Lutheran to talk about the real estate agreement the Thursday before the P&Z meeting that I asked our architect to take a look at the exit to see if we could create a left turn and a right turn to exit the new primary access easement. He said, no, you can't. He couldn't move it to the right because that would infringe on the bridge's property line. So he moved it to the left, and he said, no, you can't do that because that doesn't meet the 165-foot minimum distance between that and I think it's Dogwood that's directly across from Faith Lutheran's curb cut. So the thought occurred to me, well, if that's the only thing, then why can't we just keep the curb cut at Faith Lutheran? And he said, well, because I thought that's what you wanted. I said, no, if we can have that, that solves a lot of problems for us. Now, again, I'm not a traffic engineer or expert in that area, But if you think about having 3 entrance and exits versus just 2, in my mind, that relieves some pain points, particularly, for a high event type, high usage activity or something. It would enable the Faith Lutheran staff to be able to access their parking lot without having to get into the queue. If, in my mind, from the logical standpoint, if by keeping it open, if it were to produce anything unsafe or, during pickup and drop off, we could very easily, like we do over at Sugar Creek, put cones up to inhibit traffic flow during pickup and drop off. So in my mind, it makes no sense at all to abandon it, but that's what was approved by P&Z, and we only realized it about an hour before the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And we did talk about circling back and retooling and kind of starting from scratch. But our goal and desire is to start classes August of 2027. And so we've got a timeline that really required, and I guess there were some state changes to notification as well that lengthened the time. So we felt like we had to come here with the original plan approved so we could continue moving forward, and also without inhibiting our ability to close on both properties. And the conditional use permit is a contingency for us to close on both properties. So that's kind of how we ended up here. It seems to me, I don't see the net difference if you put cones there during pickup and drop off, how that makes things, worse in any way.
Follow up? Thank you. Okay, so I think that at this point, our goal here is to make sure safety, number 1, and mitigate traffic, number 2, to make sure the neighborhood sees what they need to see in this, and number 2, that you get what you need out of this. If maybe you could visit with staff one more time, because we have the ability to put that condition back into force. But we don't want to do it unless it's the right thing to do by staff and with you. So if we look at that one more time, maybe that would be a good idea. We're not going to put that condition in place at this point, correct? I'm looking at legal.
You're on first reading, so if you want to put a condition on first reading, then remove it at second reading, that's your...
I would wait till second until you have a chance to visit. Number 2, I know that the detention pond is in a place where we could use additional parking. Is it a possibility to move that to another area so we have overflow parking that we've heard about over and over and over tonight?
Yeah. Again, the timeline and having to get here and having the civil engineers having to put on paper something to go through the whole process to go to planning and zoning. Our current detention plan shows it in what is basically just north of the cafeteria, which is also a playing field. So after it rains, that playing field is unusable for some period of time while the water drains off. The reason it was put there is because our environmental engineers were still in the process of evaluating what is a hazardous containment site that's been contained, to see how deep we would be able to go in order to put the detention pond to the west of that site. And so what we've determined is that we can go up to 11 feet deep, which is plenty deep to be able to put the detention pond to the west of that area, so that we can keep that playing field or parking. And in fact, another iteration of our future plans does have an additional 200 parking spaces, which was a requirement of the bridge to sell us, their land, because if they continue to grow, they're going to need incremental parking as well. So we do have for future phases 200 additional spaces already earmarked on a future plan. But we're trying to raise a whole lot of money, and that's not part of phase 1. And again, just to emphasize, when we move in 2 years from now, our enrollment is going to be a fraction of what the whole plan is designed around.
Okay, thank you. Follow up? Follow up. Thank you. Staff, can I ask you your opinion on moving the detention pond?
Staff has no issues with the proposed location on that alternate plan that we saw after Planning and Zoning Commission. It's just that the curb cut addition and the detention pond change is what made us advise that it go back to Planning and Zoning Commission in order to evaluate it. If it's just the detention pond, staff has no issues with that change.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. that I just forgot I was, it went away because I was all into the detention pond. Okay, let's do this. Can we make a conditional use that we move, a condition that we move the detention pond where the applicant had first asked for it to be, if it's under regulation? We are able to do that, correct? You just said that.
Yes, there's no concerns with that proposed location.
Okay, and with that, we will be able to use that area, which was previously a soccer field, for parking or other uses.
Yes.
And that should relieve some of the problems we're seeing tonight.
That, I will say, the addition of the parking was not in that alternate plan that was shown to staff after the P&Z meeting, so that would require further evaluation to see that new plan.
Okay, do we need to add that as a part of condition that we use that space for parking or additional parking?
Mayor.
You committed to the site plan?
Okay.
We're getting in the weeds, I'm
Excuse me,
sorry.
Meredith?
It would not be a condition. You would need
you know what?
to
That's not in my presentation.
amend the site plan attached to the exhibit. It's not a condition.
Okay. So what motion do I need to make?
Okay.
Well, first of all,
Here it is.
So the 200 spots that are part of a plan that, Jessica's never seen, but it was required by the bridge in order for us to, for them to sell us their land, is essentially a parking lot that's directly behind their existing parking lot and adjacent to the 43 space lot that we would create new just off of the primary access easement.
Follow-ups.
Follow-up.
I'm actually talking about overflow parking. I'm not asking you to change your current contract. You need to keep that intact because of the time frame involved. I'm telling you, if this detention pond is moved, that should we see an increase in parking needs, that you would use that for overflow parking. And I know you can park on it now. We've parked on it before.
Right. Like I said, we can't predict the future.
Right.
If it starts to overflow, our door's open. Let's get together. Let's figure out solutions to problems. Absolutely.
So I think at this time, I would like to make a motion that we amend this, make a conditional use, or condition that we move the detention pond to the back of the property. How do I say that? How do we make it legal?
The northwest corner.
So I'm guessing you're making a motion to approve amending
Yes.
the ordinance by, and then state what you want the site plan to be amended to be.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve with an amendment that we have a condition moving the detention pond to the far back of the property. I don't know the exact coordinates. Do we have to have the exact coordinates?
It's attached. I can figure out which one.
It's
Attached to the site plan.
It should be, I believe it's 2830, but let me confirm. 2380.
On 2380. Thank you.
Okay, and regarding the traffic cut, that's something that could be added under second consideration if council wants to do so? That Councilmember Watley brought up?
Yes, a further amendment would be on the second hearing after they talk regarding the second cut remaining open.
So you're directing staff to
Yes.
go back and look into that and bring you an answer back for second reading?
Yes, thank you.
So right now, the only motion you have is to approve moving the detention pond to the back of the lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we can add that potentially amendment about the traffic cut on second consideration then. Okay, Councilmember Single?
I had just one comment for the city. I think one comment was made that the speed limit there is 40 and not 20 during the school time. So if city can look into that to have the speed limit reduced during the time of pickup and drop.
So a lot of the speed limits, those are set for the school zones, are set by city council under ordinance. They're typically set though based on the amount of pedestrian traffic that you see. So that is something that can be investigated and brought back.
Okay. Are there any further questions or comments?
Sure, question.
Okay, does everyone understand the motion? Oh, sorry, Councilmember Bester.
Is there any plan in the future to expand this road? They were discussing moving it to 4 lanes or 2 lanes each side.
Not at this time.
Okay. That's it.
Everybody good? Okay, so we've got a motion by Watley and a second by Jacobson. Let's vote at this time. Okay, and the motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Anyway, we have a number of agenda items left, so we're going to take a 10-minute recess. meeting. Item number 9C, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on the proposed ordinance number 2382, adopting a revised fee schedule by amending Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 4, fees for various city services, and Chapter 5, Article 8, Division 3, rates and charges, Section 5246 to 5265 of the Code of Ordinances and other matters related thereto. So we have Shelley Stedman, Director of Budget.
Is it on? Okay, there we go. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the first of 4 items that Budget is bringing today, all in part of our fiscal year 26 budget process. As we get started, I just want to remind you why we have fees, rates, and charges. They're essential tools that ensure fairness, sustainability, and transparency in how services are funded. They provide cost recovery by making sure those who use the service help pay for it rather than relying solely on taxpayers. They promote fairness and equity by aligning payment with usage, and many are structured to support regulation and compliance. They also ensure the service quality and sustainability by funding ongoing operations, maintenance, and long-term infrastructure needs. And finally, they provide transparency by creating a clear link between the cost of service and the fee and rate charged. Together, these tools align with usage, encourage responsible resource management, and support high-quality service delivery without over-reliance on property tax. Part of our annual budget process and guided by our financial management policy statements, we do an annual CPI adjustment to the vast majority of our fees, and the index we use for that is the Houston Woodlands Sugarland CPI. For this year's fee adjustments, we applied the 5-year average CPI of 3.71%. And this is based off the February CPI for the region. And then to simplify, administration fees are rounded to the nearest $0.25. In addition, each department reviewed and their respective fees to confirm that market conditions supported the adjustment, ensuring that increases remain fair, reasonable, and aligned with service delivery. Beyond the CPI adjustment, we made several fee changes this year. In planning and development, we restructured and updated fees to better align with service delivery and simplify the permitting process. In parks, we partnered with a consultant to evaluate current cost recovery and identify strategies to close the gap. Fees for drop-in activities and rentals were updated in a phased approach to move closer to the recovery while keeping facilities affordable and reducing the reliance on general taxpayers. With the completion of Stage 2 of public safety facility, new fees were added to recover costs for other public safety organizations to use that location. And finally, a 2% credit card transaction fee was added to cover processing costs, but this will not be added to the utility bills as that cost is already built into the utility rate model. Also set by our financial management policies is how we set our utility rates. Utility rates and user fees are set at levels that ensure the city can fully cover operating costs, meet all debt obligations, and maintain a strong debt service coverage, provide pay-as-you-go funding for needed capital improvements, and sustain adequate working capital to handle emergencies and revenue fluctuations. So on the left here, you will see the proposed residential rates for fiscal year 26 for water and wastewater, and on the right you'll see the impact to the average residential bill. The recommended rates will result in an estimated impact of about $3.06 per month, or about 3% to the residential utility bills based on 10,000 gallons of water usage. Commercial customers do not have winter averaging for wastewater, as they typically have separate irrigation meters. And while there's many factors that impact a typical customer, this year an average customer commercial customer with a standard 2-inch water meter will see a rate increase of about 3% on their monthly bill related to water, surface water, and wastewater. Also, I want to highlight that stormwater fees are not increasing. The solid waste fund is structured as a pass-through fund that primarily covers contracted services with Republic. Under the contract, rates adjusted annually by the higher of the 2.5% or CPI, capped at 5%. For this year, CPI for garbage service was 6%, so the 5% cap applies, resulting in a $1.09 monthly increase. Also, with the uncertainty of FEMA and increased emergency events, fiscal year 26 includes an added $1 monthly charge dedicated to emergency disaster recovery, which will generate about $420,000 annually for reserves. These funds will provide capacity to cover the cost of a small non-reimbursable event each year, or to fund the city's share of a large debris event that are 75% reimbursable by FEMA every 7 years. With these changes, the total monthly residential rate will be $23.97, which will be effective January 1st. And with that, we will go to the public hearing.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Has anyone filled out a speaker card?
No, Mayor, they have not.
Okay, I will close the public hearing. Council members, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, so first consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance Number 2382, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, adopting a revised fee schedule by amending Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 4, Fees for Various Services, Chapter 5, Article 8, Division 3, Rates and Charges, Sections 5246 to 5265, Chapter 5, Article 8, Division 12, Municipal Drainage Utility System, Section 5413, and Chapter 5, Article 9, Division 1, Fire Protection and Emergency Medical Service fees established of the Code of Ordinances and other matters related thereto.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Jacobson, second by Vondahar. Let's vote at this time. And the motion passes 7-0. Next item, 9D, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on the proposed 2025 assessment for properties located in the Park at Eldridge Public Improvement District. And again, we have Shalay Stedman, Director of Budget.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to just talk about what a PID is, or a public improvement district. This is a financing tool that cities use to fund public infrastructure, such as streets, utilities, drainage, and landscaping within a defined area. Property owners in the PID pay a special assessment, typically spread out over many years. This reimburses the developer of the funds for those infrastructure improvements. The funds can only be used for the public infrastructure and cannot be used to support private amenities, such as HOA operations and maintenance of private facilities. And state law requires all prospective homeowners to be notified of the PID and their assessment obligations at closing, ensuring full transparency. PIDs often serve as an alternative to a MUD or a municipal utility district. So today specifically, we're talking about the Park at Eldridge PID. A council resolution in 2021 created the Park at Eldridge PID, which is a 21.4 acre tract of 89 plotted lots. The agreement stipulates that the reimbursement of $1.74 million to the developer for infrastructure will be triggered when the certified assessed value of the district reaches $25.5 million. Assessment needed are net of 50% of property taxes received from the area and capped at $52,590. For tax year 2025, proposed assessment is $935 per lot, and then this assessment will be billed by the Fort Bend County Tax Office. As you can see, this is the projected assessment schedule. The proposed rate for tax year 25 is $935, and it's the same as the first year of the assessment for 2024. In addition to the notice in the paper, a public hearing notice was mailed to all property owners of the PID, which included an additional letter of the background on the PID. And that leads us to the public hearing.
At this time, I would like to open the public hearing. Has anyone filled out a speaker card?
No, Mayor, they have not.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Do any council members have a question? Councilmember Watley?
Thank you, Mayor. It's a busy night in District 1. Good Lord. Is this PID built out, the park at Eldridge, is it built out yet? These are 89 lots, or is it, I looked at this list, but I didn't want to count them. Is that all 89 of them?
I believe they are very close if they're not complete. I don't know for sure on that answer.
Okay, so considering it's probably not, will the assessment change in next year if they are not built out and when they do become built out?
The projections we're seeing is that the values of the home are coming in much faster than planned. And that is why we're foreseeing that in the next 2 years, we may have to increase the assessment only because we're going to be issuing the debt much earlier than planned. So we won't have the reserves to help pay that in the future.
Okay.
But it will reduce the amount of time that they have to pay the assessment as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Motion to approve.
Okay, so first consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance 2384, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, adopting and approving the 2026 service plan, the 2025 assessment roll, and levying assessments for the 2025 calendar year for property located in the park at Eldridge Public Improvement District. We have a motion by Watley and a second by Councilmember Single. Let's vote at this time. And the motion passes 7-0. Then item 9E, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. And again, we have Shalay Stedman.
This is my last one tonight.
Okay.
As part of the state requirement on municipal budgets, we must hold one public hearing on the proposed budget. And then also following our requirements internally, our financial management policies, we filed the budget on July 15th. The posted notice was put in the newspaper and on our city website, and it was in the newspaper on August 20th. As a reminder, since the filing of July 15th, we have dived deep into the budget and our 5-year capital improvement plan with 4 workshops totaling around 12 hours with 15 presenters and over 455 slides of information. So if you missed a workshop, the good news is that all of these videos are on the website and posted for viewing. I'm not, as I said, we went in great depth on the budget during the workshop, so I'm not going to go in too much detail, but I did want to highlight our 2026 high-level budget priorities. First is our public safety. The city of Sugar Land was nationally ranked as the #2 safest city for a family of 4, and this is in part to our incredible public safety programs. On the left, you'll see a few of the great programs that are funded in the fiscal year 26 program, and that not only ensures that we have the right staff on scene, but we have the right tools available to answer all of those 911 calls. The second priority is redevelopment. The city of Sugar Land was ranked #3 best city to live in the U.S. We continue to strive to maintain our incredible city as we focus on innovative approaches to redevelopment. Fiscal year 26 included budget for the final $2.65 million for the Lake Point development. Includes O&M for the recent purchase of Imperial Historic District, funding for another great year for the Great Homes program, and ongoing park rehabilitation funding. Our champion workforce continues to be trailblazers, leading the way locally and nationally with innovative programs such as the No Traffic Detection System, GPS Emergency Preemption System, and Lumet Tracker are just a few we learned about in the workshops. Staff focuses on providing quality services with the best customer service, which was highlighted by a 4.9 rating for permits. And in order to maintain our champion workshop, the fiscal year 26 budget includes the 3% merit increase for non-public safety employees and a step increase for public safety, along with a 3.5 structure adjustment to ensure pay remains competitively. And I just wanted to highlight, because there's been some confusion about that, it's not you add them together, it's just the shifting of how the pay range works. So for example, if someone was topped out, the structural change just allows them to receive the 3% along with their peers. Our last highlight of the budget is, or focus of the budget is our data-based decision-making. The proposed budget was developed using the best data available, drawing on historic trends and planning for the future. Throughout the workshops, we shared charts and visuals that highlight how this data guides our decision-making. A few examples here is how to plan for future emergency disaster recovery, where to focus redevelopment efforts, how to improve customer service, or how do we identify opportunities to be more efficient. Finding efficiencies was the starting point for building the budget, and it was actually my starting point here at the city as well. Each department began by planning for the worst case scenario, and that required cutting 30% of their budget. So we went deep to see what changes we can make. Directors then worked together to rank these reductions and identify solutions that lowered costs while avoiding impacts to service levels. This process included partnering with outside resources and seeking alternative funding, adjusting programs and hours to better align with demand, and shifting departments to common software platforms to eliminate duplications. Departments also looked for ways to share resources and insource whenever possible. On the staffing side, we reduced 16 full-time equivalent positions with a focus on higher level management. In fact, 50% of the positions reduced were assistant director level or higher. Altogether, these efforts generated over $4.7 million in savings and reflected our commitment to efficiency and building a structurally sound budget while continuing to deliver high quality services to the community. And I just want to highlight that we're not done yet. This is going to be a continued process every year as our budget process as we look at our services going forward. Next, in the budget process, we look at our budget revenue assumptions. For sales tax, we follow the financial management policy set for recurring sales tax revenue. Property tax rate is set at 0.363210, and there was no increase to the homestead exemption. About the $3 monthly increase to utility rates, which we just talked about, and then the $23.97 a month for solid waste. Here you can see the total city revenue budget and the total city expenditure budget. On the top, it does not include transfers, and on the bottom, you'll see those total transfer dollars. For both revenues and expenditures, the city's general fund make up just over a fourth of the totals. Capital projects included in the proposed budget total to $184 million, and key projects in the fiscal year 26 CIP include wastewater and drainage projects at $49 million, municipal and police facility projects at $57 million, and airport projects at $43 million. The next steps in the budget process include another public hearing next week on our proposed 2025 tax rate. And then on September 16th is the adoption of the fiscal year 2026 budget, the 5-year capital improvement plan and the compensation plan, adopt the 2025 property tax rate, and the second readings of the fee and PID assessment, which we just had the first today. So today there are 2 actions. First will be the public hearing, and then the second is the vote. Must take action on to put the item on the agenda for September 16th.
So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. I've received 10 speaker cards. Linda, has anyone else filled out a speaker card?
No, Mayor, they have not.
Okay. And just a reminder, disruptions of public meetings are prohibited, and clapping and booing are considered disruptions. The first speaker of the evening is Samita Ghosh.
Thank you, Samita Ghosh, longtime Sugar Land resident since 1992. Before that, I was in A-Leaf when the sugar mill used to be a field trip for 7th graders. So I'm here to speak on the budget and really just talk about how I love Sugar Land. And I think there are there's misinformation by someone who shall go unnamed, howdy doo-doo, who believes that, the public is quite fine with a budget increase. But as we've seen, every nickel and dime adds up. So there's, as quickly as I could see, there was a $5 increase in monthly waste and whatever. And there are people that are really struggling right now that aren't being looked upon as legitimate concerns. I mean, there are people, 86-year-olds who are going back to work to pay, and every dollar that we're asking them to pay is making it harder for them to live in Sugar Land, the city that I love and I want to thrive. And it does worry me that the city numbers, our population is going down. We had a meeting with the mayor of Missouri City, and it's not the 10-year census cycle hasn't come up, but the census in Missouri City is close. They're hitting close to 100,000, and Sugar Land is going to probably go below 100,000. So I'm just looking at one specific aspect, and that is administration. There's $4.7 million that's been cut, but I really think there's at least another $2.3 million that could be cut. We met with the mayor of Missouri City, and it's very interesting to me how the city manager infrastructure exists there. There's 2 city managers. They share one administrative assistant. Their city manager is not being paid 110% of the state's growing rate, and there's not a bloated staff of people, and so I really think there's an opportunity to make a cut there. And I do think I don't appreciate the tone of certain meetings and certain comments that are coming from the city manager. The city council is his boss. If someone from city council wants to provide advice, he should be happy to get advice from his boss. And you people on the DS we're your boss, I guess, technically, because we vote for you. But I don't appreciate being called a special interest. My special interest is making Sugar Land the best place to live and make sure it continues to thrive. So thank you.
Thank you, Samita. Our next speaker is Farah Ahmed.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Farah Ahmed. I've lived in Sugar Land for over 30 years. It hurts me to hear that people who have served on the city council are calling residents like myself and others special interests, just because of the way we speak about the budget and the tax increase. But, we are special. What makes us special? We're citizens of Sugar Land, we're residents of Sugar Land, and we're taxpayers. If you've noticed our property values over the last 10 years, it's gone up 50%. But that's allowed our taxes to be quite low and keep our budget in line. But the projections that we're seeing, and from the workshops that I've attended, it doesn't look like we're going to get a bump in property value. They might stabilize. So the first thing you'd want to do is really trim your budget before you look for a tax increase or before you issue a bond. You know, when we voted for the bond, we understood that there might be a tax increase. But historically, it's shown that it can be done without increasing your taxes. In 2013, we issued bonds. There was no tax increase because the staff worked really, really hard to trim that budget. And we're asking you not to raise these taxes. You have the ability to trim the budget and to stretch out these projects. Again, it seems like to the public that you're only issuing these bonds so you can raise the taxes for these increased salaries, which usually is paid by our property taxes. Now, in Fort Bend County, the Commissioner's Court, a wide variety of ideology on that Commissioner's Court. But what's interesting is they came to a conclusion that this year they're not going to raise taxes. And they actually did one better. They lowered the tax rate for Fort Bend County, and we're happy about that. You know, we do appreciate the staff, but they're not elected. You all are elected. We count on you to ask those questions. We want you to fight for us for every line on that budget and fight to trim that budget so it becomes affordable to all of us, especially in the light that we know next year you're going to probably try to raise that tax rate. So we really want you to take the time and attention to focus on this, and please, please ask those tough questions for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Farah. Next up is Leon Anheuser. You're getting a 2-for-1 tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, for scheduling both of those tonight, and appreciate it very much. One of the things that looks like, oh, we're only going to increase $100 for a whole year. That's anybody can afford that. But if you start increasing those, they always pyramid. So if the first year you go up 100, that's 100. The second year you go up 100, that's 200. Because that 100 is still there. The next year you go up another 100, that's 300. So it's not that it's just 100 or it's just like we heard $3 a month or whatever. Hey, it always builds. And as seniors, we're on, a lot of them are on. They're getting the same amount of money every month. They're really not getting raises. So in the property taxes, I see that you're not going to offset the seniors' property tax increase with your 1%. And that's something I think you really ought to be considering, that they're on just a budget. And the way they work their budget is really simple. If I don't have the money, I don't go on my vacation, I don't do this, I start eating different food. That's all they have to do. And maybe that's something we're going to have to do at the city, is we're going to have to look at, well, maybe we're not going to have the special parties or the special events and all this money that we have. Now, the city of Rosenberg is reducing their tax 1 penny. That's nice. It'd be nice if we could at least keep ours the same. But you do have from what I understand from your meeting, that we have 11% increase in sales tax. So where'd that go? We have an 11% increase. We all know that sales tax comes and goes, and you have to prepare for it. That's why you have reserves. But an 11% sales tax increase not only is for everything. So we paid that 11%. The people of this community paid it. And when it comes down to buying something, the last guy to buy it pays the tax. So consider that, and please consider the seniors on your 1 cent. If you're going to increase, I'd rather not, but take care of the seniors, keep theirs, give them an additional deduction on their property tax. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. Next speaker is John Lucy. Welcome back, John.
My name is John Lucy. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, for letting me talk. I'm retired. One of the reasons I live in Sugar Land was that I lived in Houston for 40 years, and the property taxes just kept going up and up and up. And I decided that I could not afford to live there and be retired. So I moved here to Sugar Land, and the value of my house has more than doubled in the last 12 years or so since I've lived here. And I live in Hall Lake, and the majority of the people that live there are retired. And it used to be when I was working, I look and say, man, those guys are old. Now I'm older than those guys. And so I'm just asking City Council to take a look and see and try to, pinch pennies. And, one of the things that got me is that up there we're spending 25% of the money on the airport. I'm just saying I thought the airport was supposed to be self-paying. And maybe one way we need to look and see some way that the people that are using the airport pay a little bit more on that. Because they went to Sugar Land 101, and the airport we have is very nice, but the people that are using it, I think, should pay a little more. If you can afford a private jet, you've got a few bucks. So anyway, those are just my ideas, and just saying that a lot of the people are retired, and we do live on a constant amount of money, and inflation is going up. So that's all I'd ask. Please take a look at what we're spending and see if there isn't some way to, be more frugal with our money. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is Ashok Dasgupta.
Good evening, Mayor McEachern, council members. My name is Ashok Dasgupta, and I have lived in Sugar Land for over 8 years. And I just want to make sure you know that I do not belong to any special interest group. I speak tonight as a concerned citizen about the tax increase that's going on. And when the voters approved the bond package last November, the promise was clear: no more than 5 cents over 5 to 7 years dedicated to public safety and infrastructure. Yet, the proposed year 26 budget, in there, much of the increase goes to administrative growth and payroll. Items never mentioned during the bond campaign. Independent analysis done by Mr. Pinto using the city's year 26 reports highlights 3 concerns. Number 1, rising costs with fewer residents. Since 2019, population of Sugar Land has fallen by nearly 10,000. Yet staffing has grown and payroll is up $28 million since year 24. For year 26, compensation consumes 76% of the general fund. Number 2, higher debt burden. Net bonded debt per resident will reach $2,545 for year 26, up from $1,870 for year 23, a 36% increase spread across fewer taxpayers. Number 3, efficiency opportunities. at least $1 million in saving could cut year 26 1-cent tax hike in half while still meeting bond obligation. Residents are not asking for cuts to public safety. We are asking for efficiency, restraint, and balanced year 26 budget. While I commend you for the 30% reduction exercise that you have done, I respectfully urge the council.
Oh. I'm sorry, your time is up. I was listening to your speech, not watching the time. Thank you for your comments, Ashok. Next up is Anna Lakutis. Sorry. Thank you. I was listening. I wasn't watching.
Just a second. Hello, good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and to the City Manager. I've watched at least 4 people speak, sir, and you have not looked at a single resident in the eye, and that is very disrespectful. Do you hear me? It's very disrespectful not to look at the residents who are here concerned, and you can see the different age groups that are here, very concerned about this proposed 2026 budget. We oppose the budget. I believe it's frivolous. It has a lot of excessive spending, and there are ways to save money instead of increasing the tax rate on the residents of Sugar Land. The bond did get, the bond was voted on back in November of 2024. The increasing costs in November do not look like what they look like today. I went to buy a can of Folgers coffee. The cost has doubled. The scenario is different. Residents were told that those bonds would be for capital improvements, but instead we're looking at half-a-cent tax increase to pay for skyrocketing management and operations costs. That is a reflection of poor management. And if someone cannot do their job, they should look to find another job. I'm going to tell you the story of Mr. Dave. I met an 86-year-old man yesterday, and we were talking about the tax rate increase. I asked him, would you like to come and speak at the city council so they can hear from you? He said, I can't, because I have to work. I cannot afford not to work. And if they raised my taxes, it would be really, really hard, because I'm already struggling to buy my groceries. This is not a joke. If you really wanted to go back and revise your budget and cut for more savings, that's the responsible thing to do. And Mr. Andy Pinto has offered his services for free. He has an MBA, and he has internal auditing. He even teaches the class. We need to freeze the spending. We don't need to exceed the spending. We need to make sure we're responsible and not spending wastefully. The myths are that we want to cut public safety. No, public safety is not getting cut. The myths are that we're special interests. No, we're just concerned residents. There's a $500,000 cushion in that budget, and you're looking to that $1 million is what is going to cost us to take a tax increase. You got half of that right there. And if you just increase salaries by 2%, you'd save another $2 million. You don't have to raise our taxes. Actually, you all should be looking at how to reduce our taxes.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. Next speaker is Kara Misharani.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I've been a resident of Sugar Land for 10 plus years, and I love this community. My husband and I raised our 2 kids here. They just graduated from Dulles High School. I'm here in opposition to this tax increase. Please reconsider. I know you've made some changes to the budget, but costs have skyrocketed in the last year. The cost of groceries, every cost that we have on our budget I'd appreciate if you would make some changes. We have been proud residents of this community and voters in this community, and we voted for the bond for the bond in November. And I was very surprised to see that this tax increase is proposed. So I made the time to come out tonight and express my opposition, and I concur with what the other commenters have said this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Our next speaker is Andy Pinto.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity, and secondly, I want to thank all the public safety employees, including those here today, for their services, keeping us safe, as well as a top-ranked city. Let me open and pierce the government veil in common man's language, right? I did a further trend analysis of the budget, and it seems an art, A-R-T. There's no accountability, there's no responsibility, there's no transparency, because numbers are missing. I don't see the total headcount, which was there in the FY25 budget by department. That has been removed. Salaries and benefits, they've increased from 76 million to 88 million to 101 million, and now we are proposing 104 million, right? Those are numbers from the budget. General fund has increased from 119 million in 2024 to 131 million and to 137 million, right? That's an increase of 29 million over 3 years. The M&O, maintenance and operations budget, for which we are proposing a 0.5% tax, that is increased from 290 million to 337 million. That's a 45 million increase in 3 years. If that is not what spending is, Sugarland, we have a spending problem, right? But I acknowledge the great job you guys are doing in some efficiencies by using AI. Kimberly on the Parks and Recreation for innovation as well. But this trend is a disturbing trend because it's not the resident's friend. I'm not ill-informed because I'm here to speak, because I'm well-informed, and I'm not here to fund a big government. All of you elected representatives took an oath on sacred text saying that you will uphold the dignity of office, work for the good of residents, and good stewards. Some of you ran on a platform of transparency and to curb wasteful spending. Are you going to ask me what is truth? Because the numbers speak the truth. But we want and wish stars in you: stewardship, transparency, accountability, but with responsible spending, because the best is not enough. I end with words from my favorite Bryan Adams songs, but with a twist. Everything,
30 seconds.
Everything you do, are you doing it for you, for the city government, or for the residents who've elected you to provide insight? So, search your heart, search your soul, as we citizens elected you to change the status quo. The choice is yours today. And I've offered you 15 recommendations. Hopefully you'll have read.
Time is up. Yeah, thank you, Andy. Our next speaker is Amina Isho. Is Amina here? Yeah, I didn't think I saw her. Okay, and so our final speaker is Mayor Gadikar.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me the flexibility to speak at the end, as I had to be somewhere at 8 o'clock. So I stand here today as a concerned resident of Sugarland City and would like to remind the city administration and the elected city officials to please take a look at the city budget. That needs a careful vetting because there are legitimate concerns of overspending that needs to be looked at. Shifting gears, I will just say the population of Sugarland City, as you all know, is decreasing. There is really no shortage of housing options in the Sugarland City. Yet families are moving out. In my neighborhood alone, there are at least 4 houses that have been in the market for the past 2 years, yet they have no takers. There are small businesses that have folded, shut their operations, and moved out to other cities. We want to ask questions, why? In this distressing environment, we already have increased property prices, so the city is obviously collecting more money from the residents because of the appreciation of property. But then citizens are reeling under the pressures of increased cost of living, rising inflation, and now burdening the residents with increased taxes over the past 5 years. All this is going to do is going to accelerate the exodus out of Sugar Land. So I also want to say one thing. This is really not the time for raising taxes or expanding the budget. This is the time for tightening your purse strings, going lean, and improving the efficiency. So I urge all the city administration, including the elected representatives of the residents, to defer voting on the budget right now. Sit down and see where are we spending, and make sure that the citizens' concerns of increased spending or overspending by the city is looked at before even voting and moving forward with the current budget. With that being said, I'm just going to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So the public hearing is now closed.
Any additional
Okay, so any questions, comments from council? Okay. Councilor Single.
Even though we are not approving the budget today, I think we are just setting the date for the hearing. I think this is possibly the last time for council member to think whether they want to change or not, because on 16th it will be too late. I want to make some comments to the public and some to my fellow council member. First, to the public, I would say, let's not make it personal. I think let's avoid the personal comment, etc. We are all working or plan to work as a team. So whether it's a city staff or council member, etc., we all need to work together for the same goal. Now, last time I had said few things, and actually my proposal was to go ahead with the increase for INS, which funds the bond, but find a saving of $1 million in our maintenance and operation so that we don't have to increase the property tax for the M&O portion. And I heard many things later on that if we don't increase now, we will be in a pickle later on, or we have to increase 2 cents next year. If we don't increase the tax now and don't do anything, then yes, you have to increase more. But if you don't increase tax and reduce your spending, and my proposal was both together, cut the tax rate or not increase the tax rate and reduce the spending by 1 million, then we don't have to do 1.5 or 2 in the future. Because the saving which we are doing in the recurring expenditure is passing on from year to year. I have offered to show where savings can be made to the city manager. I am willing to do it with the council as well. But I think we have to be willing to look for that saving. I know city is doing very well. All the staff is excellent. They have done well, but we can do better. And that was my point, and in that split I had said last time, I am willing to sit with anybody in the council. Of course I can't sit with more than 3, but with city manager to show them where this 1 million saving can come. And I still believe between now and next week, possibly we will look for that. Also want to clarify, nowhere I had suggested that public safety or the police fire should be cut. It was the 1 million cut proposed in non-public safety budget, which I believe is achievable, and I leave it at that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Watley.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if this is for legal or for you, but in our previous council, we did talk about ways to find exemptions or cuts for seniors, and there were none that we could legally do. Can you touch on that, or can someone touch on our hands are tied as far as giving separate cuts for seniors?
The state legislature has not made any changes to state law that would allow us to do that at this time.
So that is our answer. As much as we tried last year and before to give cuts to seniors, realizing they are the ones we're looking at the most, we are unable to do that. I just wanted to make sure you understood that. We tried and we can't. So thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Councilmember Betcher.
Thank you, General Comment here. And thank you, Shirley, for putting all this, the budget together. Thank you to the city manager and his team. It was definitely a lot put together, before many of us were even sworn into council. And, it is a lot to put together. My one comment is, one thing I would like to see, and we kind of pulled this out during the budget sessions, the budget workshops, is some of the funding has been shifted from one account to another, and it makes it very difficult to do a good one-to-one comparison between 24, 25, 26. And my one comment, and maybe you guys can prepare this between now and the next meeting, is looking at, for instance, the sidewalks. We took that out of the M&O fund and we put it into a bond, right? And that's for the next 5 years. So we saved, what, $1.5 million, however much it was. But our overall spending didn't go down for M&O, it obviously went up. So I think it would be good for, for transparency's sake, for the taxpayers and everybody, just to understand where did the money go up in which accounts directly, and for them to just understand why. Is it because of, salary adjustments? Is it because of, CPI, the cost of goods has gone up for all of our additional spending? And I think if we can put that together and make a clear case, then everyone can understand and have a clear picture of why it is that it's gone up, and to understand where we've actually gained efficiency. For instance, by shifting the money for the sidewalks from M&O to bonds, we didn't gain anything. It's just, a shell game in a sense. But if we did have savings, for instance, that $4.7 million you talked about earlier on, if the budget actually went down in certain areas, we can show and justify, hey, the city has actually had cost savings. Here's where they're showing up in the budget, and we're spending less money than we were last year or the year before that. I think that would be a good story to tell, and it would help, give the voters confidence in what we're doing up here and with the city. And, I'd appreciate if you guys could put that together for us to make the, conversation a little bit easier, because nobody wants taxes to go up. I mean, a lot of us ran on having a smart, conservative, fiscally sound government. And I don't think anybody here just wants to keep spending, because again, at some point, property taxes aren't going to go up infinitely. Growth, we can't expect it to happen indefinitely. So we are going to have to face that at some point. We want to make sure that we don't just grow, inordinately before we get to that point. So just my comments, and hopefully you guys share the same sentiment.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Shirley, this item is to set a date for the adoption of the budget. And what is the recommended date? So September 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I move to that we adopt September 16th as the date to consider and adopt the 2026 budget.
Okay, so we have consideration of and action on setting a date of September 16th, 2025 for deliberation and adoption of the fiscal year 2026 budget. We have a motion by Jacobson and a second by Vonderhaar. So is any further discussion? Okay. Let's vote at this time. And the motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, Shirley. Item number 10A, first and final consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2386, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 budget for the City of Sugar Land, Texas, to provide that the revised budget address funds relating to certain capital and operating budget matters, and that this amendment be adopted as the budgeted amount for those funds. We have Justin Mayorato, Assistant Director of Budget.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, everybody. So on the agenda for this item, I'm going to talk briefly about the budget process after adoption, and then quickly cover some highlights from a few of our major funds, and then open up for any further questions. So there are changes to roughly 31 different funds that the city has on this item. However, again, I'm just going to cover those major highlights. Many of the changes on the smaller funds are minor or just simply capturing revised revenue estimates for the fiscal year. And then lastly, council will make a motion on the item. So while the adoption of next year's budget usually takes the spotlight around this time of year, it's also important to remember that budgeting and the management of the budget is a year-round process. The budget is typically amended formally by ordinance twice each year. The first being when the prior fiscal year ends and staff prepares a recommendation for carryover funding, which is to cover expenses for goods and services committed but not received by the end of the prior fiscal year. And then second, which we are here for today, is to capture all other budget amendments approved by council since the last ordinance, as well as capture those year-end revised estimates. So first, let's start off with revenues in the general fund, particularly property taxes. We are anticipating revenues to come in roughly $250,000 lower than budgeted, but we are seeing roughly twice as much in penalty and interest. We do expect changes in the current levy from the certified values to be offsetting this increase. The decrease is primarily, again, due to those changes in the certified valuation, as well as refunds that were due. The refunds could be from appraisal changes, court rulings, as well as exemptions that were applied retroactively. So here we can kind of see that decrease in the taxable value for tax year 24 from certification with an overall decline of roughly $206 million in taxable value. We see $127 million of that on the commercial side and $79 on the residential side. However, our sales tax collections have been strong fiscal year to date, with an average of the monthly collection coming in at 10% over the budget for the month. Based on the actual collections we've seen to date, as well as our estimates for September, we anticipate the general fund to see or collect roughly $5.6 million in additional revenue over the initial conservative estimate. For other revenues in the general fund, our other taxes, which include various franchise fees and mixed beverage taxes, show a minor decline from budget of about $24,000 or 0.4%. Charges for services estimate, including a sizable increase in EMS collections, festival site rentals, and facility usage fees, totaling roughly $700,000 or 12.4%. License and permits increases are driven by building permit fees and electrical and HVAC permitting. In total, expecting $1.6 million or a 39.6% increase. Interest income is expected to be $400,000 over the budget estimate, or about 13.9%. Lower based on changes in fund balance. Our fines and forfeitures are down based on lower municipal court fines, down by about $200,000. However, on our intergovernmental revenues, we are also showing a decrease of roughly $400,000, driven by lower anticipated federal and other governmental contributions. However, other revenues, which are inclusive of reimbursements, capture an additional $1.7 million in additional revenues, including insurance claims. So next up on the operating expenditures, our general fund operating expenditures are expected to come in at roughly $659,000 higher than budget. This amendment includes additional funding primarily in public works for additional electricity costs to run our facilities of just under $350,000 and $200,000 in finance for EMS billing charges and services provided by Fort Bend County Central Appraisal District for the property tax billing. Not shown here is an additional $271,000 needed to cover insurance deductibles this year, which ties back to those additional revenues I just mentioned from the insurance recovery. So in summary, the general fund is expected to see $8.4 million in additional revenues and an increase in expenditures by just under $1 million as compared to the current budget. This leaves the fund ending the year better by $7.45 million and $13 million over the policy requirement. Moving on now to our debt service fund. I just want to highlight here that we did have, we're recognizing some savings based on the timing of an issuance. Going into the fiscal year, we had initially planned for payments to be made this fiscal year for a new issuance. However, based on the timing of that sale, we're not anticipating the first debt payment to be made until next fiscal year. The savings there are deferred by about $2.4 million. In summary, here the debt service fund overall is looking at roughly a $580,000 decrease in expected revenue. This is driven by, again, the property tax collections in this fund, which are also impacted by those changes in taxable value and refunds previously mentioned. This change, coupled with the decrease in the planned debt service, leaves the fund better by $1.88 million at fiscal year end, with the fund balance as $14.3 million, well above that policy requirement by $11.2 million. Looking now at our water utility fund revenues, the utility fund is anticipating roughly $690,000 in revenue compared to budget. This is primarily driven by interest income, the premium on the bond sale that they had this year, and some miscellaneous revenues, which includes reimbursements associated with the BRA contract with Dow Chemical. Offsetting these increases are lower collections from the primary revenue sources of revenue in this fund, including charges for services, surface water, and tap fees, which, as our Director of Utilities mentioned in our last workshop last week, this is driven by changes in consumption influenced by the weather. Since late May, Sugar Land has seen a significant increase in rainfall, which has impacted the summer months where we typically see the majority of the consumption. In summary, this fund is looking at roughly $700,000 higher than the current budget and revenues. The expenditure increase of $270,000 is a mix of operational savings and a needed increase for overtime, which is impacted by the winter storm event back in January. Additionally, we saw significant savings on our bond issuance costs this year by amount of about $650,000. Standard practice here with planned bond issues is to estimate 2% in the principal for issuance costs, which is what the budget was based on. The net result of these changes is a fund balance that is $430,000 higher than the budget anticipated, and small increases to our cash reserve and bond coverage ratios as a result. Our airport fund has also done well this year, anticipating to set another record-breaking year, as you heard from our Director of Aviation a few weeks ago, in terms of total volume. However, based on changes in the cost of fuel, you will see a decline in the total dollar amount of projected revenue. For example, average actual fuel cost is roughly $3.18 for avgas and $2.33 to date for Jet A, where the prices at the time of developing the budget last year anticipated $4.07 for avgas and $3.39 for Jet A. Across other revenues in the airport, they're expected to see an additional $570,000 in revenues compared to budget, spread across their various hangars that they have for lease, other charges for services offered at the airport, as well as a doubling in the interest income based on conservative estimates and their greater than anticipated fund balance at the beginning of the year, as well as an additional $110,000 in miscellaneous revenues. On the operating expenditure side, we can see here the clear decline in the FBO services by roughly about $5 million. This is where the cost for purchasing the fuel for resale lives, and so we'll see that decrease there as well with the lower anticipated cost of fuel. In summary, the airport's looking at an overall decline in revenues of $2.3 million when compared to budget. However, the offsetting expenditure reductions of $4.9 also capture, again, that revised cost of fuel inventory. The net result of these changes leaves the airport with an additional $2.6 million in net income, increasing available fund balance and financial coverage ratios. And so lastly is our benefits fund, which has a mentionable change. Here we can see an increase in both contributions and claims compared to budget. And comparing the number of enrolled employees to the current estimates from our benefit consultant, we show an increase from 779 enrollees to 837 currently. In summary, that impacts our revenues to see roughly about $1 million increase. On the expenditure side, we're seeing just under $200,000 in additional claims and premiums paid there for a net change of $840,000, leaving an ending fund balance here after the reserve for claims of 20% at $1.4 million. With that, I'd like to open it up for questions for any of those funds or anything attached to the item.
Does anyone have any questions for Justin? Councilmember Stingle?
Yeah. Is this the final adjustment into the budget, or there would be one in October also after the year is finished?
So this will be the final one during fiscal year 25, but we will come back later, typically by the end of January or early February, for consideration on the carryover expenses, but that will impact the adopted fiscal year 26 budget.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion? Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Stingle. Second by Councilmember Betcher. Let's vote at this time. And the the motion passes 7-0. Item 11, City Council and City Manager reports. We can do this pretty quick. Councilmember Betcher.
This past week, we had the opportunity to tour the new University of Houston Sugarland building, the engineering school, and that was a great pleasure to see. I know the majority of our board is actually engineers, so it's good to see their electronics labs and other things that they're doing at the school. They're looking to add up to, 5,000 students at the school, and hopefully get up to 10 at some point, so glad to see their growth, and they're doing well in Sugarland.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Thank you, Mayor. I played bingo at Talyard Brewery at a fun get-together, little fundraiser for the Finest and Bravest Foundation in anticipation of their big gala this year.
Councilmember Sondahar.
I had the distinct honor and privilege of attending the police promotion ceremony. First time I'd ever done something like that. And just kudos to all of our police department. We have some great people out there, and let's make sure we thank them every time we see them. And along those same lines, I also had the opportunity to participate in the 5th annual Police Appreciation Dinner at Sugar Creek Country Club. And again, shout out to all of our police officers, but also a special thank you to all of the Sugarland businesses that provided door prizes for those police officers. I was blown away by the number of gifts and the dollar value of those gifts. So thank you, police. And thank you, the city businesses, for supporting them.
Councilmember Miller.
Oh, I too attended the police promotion ceremony, represented you, Mayor, and said a few words. It was great to see those promotions. And I was at the UNH thing as well, remembering that we funded the first building that was over there at the UH growth. So it's good to see the growth there.
Councilmember Single.
Hi. So I attended the Austin Parkway ribbon cutting ceremony for the drainage improvement project. So well done to the engineering department. The project was done under budget, ahead of time. So well done. Also attended 3 functions with the police department. One was the annual luncheon for the appreciation. Also attended the Red and Blue United, the fundraising ceremony, and also the promotion ceremony for the SLPD. So again, want to thank all the police department and public safety for doing an excellent job and keeping us safe. And like what Jim said, people who donated for the appreciation lunch, that's really appreciated by the council. And finally, I also attended the US tour just to learn more about the university and their plans. Thank you.
Councilmember Watley.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I was with all you guys on all those things, including, I think we all went to the Fort Bend Business Coalition Luncheon at AccuSoft, correct? You guys were all there. But I want to thank most of you, or all of you who came to the Finest and Bravest Kickoff Sponsor Party. Thank you for helping us kick it off, and I hope to see you all at the gala. Thank you.
And just to comment about the Austin Parkway Chimney Stone Drainage Improvement Project, staff secured a $16.5 million 0% interest loan, and that saved taxpayers approximately $7.6 million of interest. So anyway, I attended the Colony Grant HOA meeting, I attended India's 79th Independence Day celebration, and I attended Sewa USA Dancing Stars, and that fundraiser supports after-school programs and mentorship for students from low-income families. So Mike, do you have a report?
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you again to those of you who spoke.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. It's the longest meeting in a while.